All right. Good morning to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited, and I'm joined by.
What's up? What's up? How's it going, man? Jerome Bourgeois, co-creator, co-founder, Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And today, as you guys can see, we have the special Marvel, the Marvel edition / Disney Plus edition. You know, we're not gonna forget about the other Disney properties. But anyway, man, how's it going, buddy? I know you're back from Rhode Island. From Rhode Island.
Yeah, officially first show, first week of This Week in Review back from Rhode Island Comic Con. As I said, had a lot of fun, a lot of stuff to drop too. So, and in the coming days, coming weeks, I'll try to get as much of the stuff that went down during that week to you guys. And there's actually more to come, believe it or not. It's just the tip of the iceberg. We are not done with this year, so there are more cons and more con awesomeness to come. So be on the lookout for that for sure. But before we get into our stories, just as you saw with the quick little trailer that we had there at the top, there was a lot of craziness that went down with Disney Plus and, a lot of the things that were announced. But before we get into that, I just want to hop into some of the minutes just so you guys are aware. If you guys are catching us live, first off, thanks for watching us live, and if not, then if you're catching us as an archive episode, welcome. Also, welcome to Movers and Shakers Unlimited. If this is your first time, welcome back. If this is not your first time, and just make sure that if you want to remain a part of the conversation, whether you're doing it live or you're doing it as an archive episode, that you're using that hashtag TWnRMNSU. So that's This Week in Review, Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And then additionally, if you enjoy a lot of the content that we do here at Movers and Shakers Unlimited, just know that you can also be a Patreon supporter with us too. So you can find the link just down below. And with that being said, as always, I want to give a shout out to our Patreon supporter, Jerome Bourgeois. Shout out to you.
Straight from South Korea.
So with all of that out of the way, with those quick minutes, let's hop into a lot of these stories, Jerome, that we got announcements for with a lot of these Marvel projects. Some of them, obviously, we knew were on the way due to, I guess, what was it, the press, not the press, but the what was it?
The shareholder.
What did they call it from last year?
The Disney
yeah, the shareholder. They had a breakdown of a lot of the projects that were on the way. So some of these, it's just a further confirmation or further update on where they stand in terms of their production. But still, with some of the stuff that we saw, just as you saw with that initial breakdown of a lot of those titles, there's some awesome things that are on the way for us superhero fans. And we'll start first by talking about Secret Invasion. So you probably saw it. It was kind of a blink and you miss it moment. But in that initial sizzle reel, or that title trailer, if you will, that we saw at the top, they gave us a look at Nick Fury. And Nick Fury is actually without his eye patch, which, his iconic eye patch. But, maybe it's the fact that he doesn't have it is pretty fitting, considering the story behind, at least within the MCU, that is the story behind how he came to have his eye patch. So we know that they're going to be taking inspiration from that Secret Invasion story arc from the comics. And if you guys aren't aware, for those of you that are more casual fans, aren't aware of that storyline, just to give you kind of a Spark Notes version, is that it involves heavily with the Skrulls, and just as you saw in Captain Marvel, but to a much further degree, them being able to infiltrate into our society, and perhaps it has that very, very much in lieu of not just what is it, Shield and Sword and all those organizations, all those espionage related organizations. It falls heavily into that, because with that ability to be able to shapeshift into anyone, who knows at what level the Skrulls have been able to infiltrate, maybe levels of our government, maybe some of our superheroes as well. Some of our superheroes may not be who we think they are. So, Jerome, we've been teased with this in other series that have already been with us. So whether it's with the past Spider-Man film with Far From Home, but also with WandaVision, what are your thoughts on just briefly what they showed and what's on the
Yeah,
way?
I just want to I want to thank everyone for joining us for this 38th episode. You know, we're going strong still. Yeah, man, this is definitely an exciting. It's always an exciting time whenever they release these like first looks and teasers and artwork, design work for some of the shows. They didn't really show much for the Secret Invasion, but it's good to know that that's how they're connecting it. Um, I just like the idea how like Nick Fury is they're showing his character within that world of the Skrulls as opposed to just another like Captain America type of adventure. Even though those are cool too, like but it's like it's you know because Nick Fury obviously at least in the MCU how they portrayed him being the first Shield agent to really to encounter the first extraterrestrial superhero with Captain Marvel and having that relationship with the Skrulls. I like how they're going into that because I mean, like it's like you were saying, like if the Skrulls are infiltrating whatever level of government or superheroes or whatever, it's like you're really gonna need someone like Nick Fury to be part of that team to keep everyone safe and use his espionage skills to make sure everything is okay. But it just also shows how like this is how it's such a bigger threat too, and it's and just the growth of like just from Shield to Sword and just how he's now he's obviously I would think that we're going to see more like communication and strategies against fighting these galactic threats. So because I thought that was so great how like at the end of Far From Home where he wasn't even him and Maria Hill, it was Skrulls, and then he's just chilling on that planet or whatever, that space station,
Right.
and so yeah, I mean, I'm not as privy to the whole storyline. I mean, I know about it a little bit, but I think it's cool how they're showing that because then you can bring in a lot of well, I'm wondering what will be interesting is eventually are they going to transition this to like the Fantastic Four somehow, because Skrulls are a big part of that, well, Super Skrull at least, but I don't know. I mean, I know that's eventually going to be part, I guess, on the tail end of all these movies coming out. So who knows? I mean, this is one thing that's really good about Marvel. I like how, like you have all these movies coming out and then you have these shows coming out, but then they really are strategic with the, the mid and post credit sequences that can at least like allude to the, other storylines and other shows that maybe you weren't thinking originally. But the only time I think it hasn't worked as well, we'll see, I'm not going to mention everything because it just came out, what we're talking about. Eternals has some, but I just feel like sometimes I feel like that was the only time when they were like, they had like an extra sequence where it's like, okay, let's, I think most people wouldn't even know what the hell was going on because it didn't have anything to do really with that movie. It was just like a little, but usually when it does and they plant the seeds properly, it's a good transition for the next show or the next movie. And I'm sure this is probably going to tie in. They'll probably have it tie in, obviously, with the Marvels somehow or Miss Marvel, maybe. I'm thinking there's going to be some connection there. I don't know if again with Spider-Man. I don't know. I feel like Spider-Man's going more towards connecting with Doctor Strange's movie, and the same with you had WandaVision, and then like Secret Invasion is probably going to connect more with the Marvels and Miss Marvel and I don't know, maybe Fantastic Four eventually. So yeah, I'm excited to see this. My thing is just I hope eventually we start getting more we start introducing more alien races into the fold, because remember they didn't really with that last X-Men movie, they didn't really bring in Shi'ar. I don't know what those aliens.
Yeah, and I mean
I don't know what the hell that was.
the opportunity is definitely there to do that, and that's one way you
Yeah.
can kind of distinguish this X-Men iteration from the other ones that have been done, is to actually really dig into all the other alien races that they have, had contacts with or ties with. I guess the
Rude.
thing that would be interesting here is with a story like this, and this is a very smart of Marvel to do, is that doing a story like this that deals with like that espionage and that mystery aspect, there's honestly not a whole bunch you really need to do in terms of special effects. Like you'll have a couple of moments here and there where people are shape shifting back and forth between being a Skrull and a human being, but it's not like what you would have with the Hulk, where you have to have that character's CGI the entire time, or you have to, like, even when the characters are Skrulls, like those that's prosthetics and makeup. So you may have a couple of moments here and there where you're showing that transformation, but in terms of like budgeting and figuring out how to still make the story work, you're not completely dependent on special effects to make that happen, and you can still make a very interesting and intriguing story.
I'm
So
sure
I,
the action though, but I mean, I'm sure they're gonna have
yeah, that
action
too,
too. I mean, that
but I
costs.
mean,
I mean, that costs money too, man. Like, don't get it twisted. Practice, now like everything. But yeah, I get it. CGI, of course, that costs money, but explosions and
yeah,
now,
yeah,
now, hey, I wonder how they're shooting stuff with guns now, because that's changing now too. A lot of people using fake guns, straight up rubber guns. I mean, like they probably like they should, or you can make guns look real without having to have real type of guns on set or with blanks. But yeah, I know that's another story. But anyway, I'm just saying that last story we were talking about before, the tragic one, it has impacted Hollywood now, and like I think even Dwayne Johnson, he's not using real guns on his set anymore, so his sets anymore. So it'd be interesting to see, if they're doing that, how that affects all these other action-packed series and movies. But but besides that, I'm curious though if they're also going to be, if they're going to start shooting more of these shows, just like The Mandalorian and Ant-Man, Quantumania with the
technology,
volume, with the volume and
right?
the game engine technology. I would think they are, because I mean, for some of those sets,
Yeah, cost effective wise, it would make the most sense. So I wouldn't be surprised.
so that's pretty cool. But
And then I was going to say, lastly, one thing that people have been talking about is, I mean, yeah, we do have Nick Fury being shown with, like, I guess his new appearance that he will have in the series, but it was alleged as well that we actually have a look at the Queen of the Skrulls as well. I don't know if you heard about that.
I heard about it. Yeah, I did.
So at first, like when I saw it at first, I remember seeing it and I was like, really? That's who it might be? I thought that they were showing a clip, I'll be honest, of She-Hulk, but it may very
Too
well
many green
be.
characters.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It may very well be
You got
her. So
Gamora,
let me
She-Hulk,
show.
Trolls.
I'll fast forward to that scene and pull it up on the scene that people are referencing. It's a scene in which you have like a woman that's heading out of a car, and you see it, just like I said, it's blinking, you miss it moment.
Oh, I didn't see it in the trailer, but yeah, it must be.
So I want to say was it here?
Let's
Let's
really quick.
see. Here we go. Okay, so right here, hold on, let me play it. So right there,
Oh,
we have a
okay.
character that's green,
So
and a
that's
lot of
not so
people are
much
saying
they. Oh,
that
never mind.
could be. I thought it could be She-Hulk, but she seems a little more petite than She-Hulk would be, a little shorter and a little smaller in her build. So I'm thinking, it could very well
Yeah,
be
I don't know,
the
but for me,
Queen of the Skrulls.
but would it make sense story-wise? Why would they want to expose themselves out in the open like that? To me, that's, I don't know.
Because here's my thought, and I get what you're saying.
To me, that wouldn't make sense. Sorry, but
No,
I'm
I
listening
get
over
you.
here.
I get you, but
Yeah.
hear me out. So my thought is this: maybe we have a circumstance where, because of how we have those storylines where we have aliens that come into play. Like aliens can't come into play like when they're invading. A lot of times they're really like sleazy, slimy human beings that are trying to get their slice out of, or take their advantage out of that situation. So what if it's a situation where, and I have no proof of this, but to your point, to kind of explain your point, is that we have a faction of human beings that are working in line with the Skrulls because they want to have some power as well, and by allowing the Skrulls to kind of infiltrate into their ranks, especially in politics, like maybe we have some sleazy politicians in there, or some sleazy characters that have some semblance of influence and power, and they're aware of the Skrull invasion, and they're working in tandem with them, so that way they can get their spot in that hierarchy of power. Because I guess they may figure, oh well, aliens have already invaded us anyway, so like if they've already invaded Earth, maybe I should just work with them instead of working against them. You know what I mean? So maybe that's a situation where there's some kind of like hush hush, maybe factional group that has a lot of influence, and maybe because of that, the Skrulls are not afraid of showing their true appearance to them in that situation. So maybe that was like a scene from like maybe a private party or event.
It looks like a red carpet or something. Like, I don't know. That
could.
I still don't think they would expose themselves. Like, it maybe I don't know. I think it's very. I mean, it could maybe, but to me, the whole point of being a shapeshifter and not letting people. It's kind of like with Blade, with the vampires. Like, those are all vampires, but then you see the little.
But we also have to remember this. We also have to remember this too. Like, at this point, we're living in a post-blip era and a post-New York
but you don't want everybody. But they don't want. The whole idea is like they don't want to show. Like I said, humans want to think that they have some sort of. Not everybody is like impacted by alien. I mean, if it's a different way of attacking, like infiltrating, like by not knowing.
And here's another thought.
But I was gonna say, here's another thought. You can do that because you can do that. Like, if you can't do that, I get it. Yeah, you just come by and attack. But
I'm saying, here's another thought too. It could also mean that, because I mean, we have no context of where it appears in the series. It could be towards the end. What if for a brief moment the Skrulls actually win, and at that point they're like, screw it, we don't need to like hide ourselves from you. Like, we're in charge now, so like we'll show our actual true faces. Like, it could be towards the end when they've actually managed to secure a position of power, and at that point they're like, okay, all bets are off. Like, we don't need to like hide ourselves. Like, we'll actually come out into the open. So it could be that too. I mean, that's something to think about as well. Because sometimes when we have these series like this where we have villains, and it's not unheard of even with Marvel, that they'll allow their villains to win for a little bit, and they'll allow them to kind of like in many cases accomplish what they're trying to accomplish, and their true heroism comes in taking them down when all hope seems to be lost. So it could be one of those situations as well.
I don't know. I just feel like the Skrulls, unless you're Super Skrull, everyone like their power is, like I said, by deception, using deception.
There are rumors that he actually may be appearing in there. So there's that.
Yeah, I know, but Super Skrull has all isn't just a shapeshifter. I mean, he's got all the Fantastic Four's power. So I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I just feel like that's their power, like the being deceptive and infiltrating from within. So no, I mean, it's possible, but I don't know. I just feel like that's, even if they do, like, the whole idea is like, it's to be in power and people don't know you're in power, but the people who do need to know that you're in power, they know what's up. But like, everyone's like, brainwashed, or they're just, and it's a good metaphor too, of just like real life of like the people who are really in power. It's like the ones who are really in power, they don't, they're not flashy. Like like you don't even know who they are. Like they're quiet. They're in the shadows. It's like all the people are thinking that, oh yeah, I'm the big dog. I got all this money. It's like people really have a lot of money. They're gonna be like, no, I'm good. I only have this much. I'm not that wealthy. Like that's and I think that's a better. To me, that's what makes that interesting, and that's why I like Blade too. Like how they did it. So I mean, either way, it could be. I just feel like that's what makes this interesting, as opposed to, we've already seen all these alien threats, and it's been the usual way. Like, okay, we're going to come attack you and blow up stuff and just destroy your city. Or Thanos is like, I don't care. I'm going to just come and get my stones, get out of my way. But this is like another, way to their power is like I said, it's more, clandestine. And that's what's cool about, like, and that's what's great about the MCU. It's like, you have people like you have Skrulls who do like that's what they do. They shapeshift, and that's their main that's their form of leverage. Then you have people like, I mean, you have what is it, the Shi'ar Empire with their technology, whatever. But then they also have super beings. But then you have like the Brood, where they're just like big old like almost like insects or whatever. And then you have the Kree, where like they just think they're all, you know. So they all have. And then what else? You have what Celestials, who are just like omnipotent, and you know, there's so many different, you know, forms of aliens, and that's what, to me, that's what makes it interesting, like showing all of them. And I like I said, I hope they dabble in all of them. I kind of wish in Eternals they did a little more connecting with that, but you know, I still like that movie, but I feel like there was some missed opportunities. And then also, like I said, if you're gonna, I have no idea, but if they do lead to, you know, Fantastic Four or Super Skull, or maybe there's that cameo, like I said, is this going to be the first inkling of you know, the new Fantastic Four movie, or introducing some of those characters? I mean, it's possible, but we have no idea. Because remember, that's what was great about Loki. Like, I had no idea. I was like, oh, they're gonna put you know, at least the variant version of one of the variants of Kang, and that was a pleasant surprise. Made Loki more interesting, because like I said, we were talking about this before. I didn't really have high expectations for the Loki series, but I was impressed with towards the end. So they're good at holding stuff close to the chest. So anyway.
Indeed. And, you know, switching gears to our next story, as I said, there were so many, you know, announcements that went down, Secret Invasion just being one of them. There were other series as well. We had a look at Moon Knight, at She-Hulk, as well as Miss Marvel. As I said, having a look at all of these shows, and it's crazy to think that we're getting all of these shows and all these different, you know, characters being introduced to the MCU.
That's what I like.
It's an understatement that we already have, you know, a good selection of heroes, but why not have some more?
Because some had to retire, or they died, or they got to rotate them in and out. I mean, that's what you have to do, you know? Come on, what are you gonna do?
So with the shows that we have here, if you guys aren't familiar, you know, with Moon Knight, I'll be honest with you, you know, in terms of like the selection of heroes that are out there in Marvel, I'm not privy a whole bunch to Moon Knight. I do know in terms of that aesthetic, a lot of the aesthetic that they utilize, you know, with that character is very Batman-esque. And I know that he kind of, you know, kind of tackles with different personalities that he has of, you know, is he really crazy, or does he really is he really able to communicate with this god that provides him with, if I understand, with his powers. But you know, as I said, you have those other shows as well, with She-Hulk, who is the cousin of Bruce Banner, and due to a blood transfusion, she's able to get her abilities. However, the only difference with her, there are a couple of cool caveats with her, in which she's a lawyer. And in terms of, you know, what we know about the Hulk, where by transforming into the Hulk, a lot of that intellect goes to the wayside. That's not the case with his cousin. Even though she has a lot of those abilities of the Hulk, she still was able to keep her intellect intact, which is, you know, kind of reminiscent of what we seen in the most recent iteration of Hulk, or Professor Hulk, if you will. So that element, having that element of being a lawyer, is really going to be interesting, because it's going to give us an opportunity, or I should say, it will give the show an opportunity to really delve into the law related aspects of being a superhero. I mean, we've gotten teases of it, you know, already thus far in the MCU, with like Civil War, and even to a degree, if you want to argue, in the first Spider-Man, where we were seeing the ramifications of what happened in New York, and them having kind of like a cleanup team for those instances where there's a lot of damage that's caused by superheroes. And we saw it also actually in Jessica Jones to a degree as well, even though it's not, and Daredevil.
That's no, but that's still MCU, because they were related. I mean, it's just in the past. It is though. Yeah, they said the incident. If they said the incident that's in there is just.
Yeah,
MCU
yeah,
is just in the
yeah.
past. It's Netflix MCU, but it's still
The
MCU.
way that I have been able to
It's still
compartmentalize it
MCU though. Yeah.
is that it's the MCU, but it's like an alternate universe of the
It's
MCU.
the
Like they're
past. It
variant.
basically was the past before all that stuff because
They're
everything was
variant.
like, wow, this must have all happened before 2000, I guess
But
16. It was like
still, like
2014, I think.
but still, I'm saying with the resources that this show will have compared to the Netflix show, there's going to be an opportunity for other characters to be able to cameo that maybe
Yeah, no,
they
I
weren't
know, but
able
I'm
to
just
do in the
saying they
Netflix
showed.
shows.
I'm saying they showed that
So
because he was defending, at least. Well,
they had some characters
they
in
had
there, but
like the Punisher. Yeah, like they
I'm
had
saying in
Punisher.
terms of
They
the
had
caliber. Let me be
no, I'm not
more
disagreeing. I'm
specific.
just
So
saying that you were saying that they didn't really like that was the show that had them, started that showed some of it at least, but they haven't done it.
some of it,
They haven't done.
some of it.
No, I'm saying, but they didn't really have stuff like that in the movies except for that show because that's what he does. But now they're gonna finally like really bring it into the fold with everything else, with the characters already. The characters that didn't show up in those shows. That's what I'm saying. So,
Again,
but
the caliber.
that was the first show really to show that like there wasn't. I don't remember any other show or movie really like even the stuff in Spider-Man that was like a cleanup crew. Like that was like they were dealing they weren't in court though, you know what I'm saying? There wasn't like they were just talking about, oh yeah, we're taking over from here, but not like, no one was. Now with this new Spider-Man movie, it'll be interesting how they're going to connect anything, but I mean, he's trying to just be like, oh, I don't even want to deal with this. Let me just change my reality. So it's kind of like a cop out. I mean, it's going to be cool, but it's almost like, man, I can't, he doesn't want obviously people to know his identity, but I was hoping. Well, I don't know. We haven't seen the movie, but I was hoping. I was like, yeah, man, maybe Daredevil or She-Hulk comes in there and represents him. But what are you gonna do? But no, I think that's cool because that genre hasn't been, approached yet. We haven't seen that yet within these Marvel shows or movies, like the legal drama. So it's like a legal drama, legal action drama, superhero genre, I guess you could call it. So yeah, I just really hope I really hope like Daredevil or something has a cameo and then they bring him back and they have they said they're going to probably represent. She probably they'll have some other cameos, so that would be cool. I don't know. I guess they could have. I don't know, who would really need legal help? I guess Zemo. I don't know. Well, he's again. I don't know. Well, what's his name? U.S. Agent.
But no, I hear you. But yes, so I guess what I'm saying is to be more specific is yes, we did have characters that popped up in Jessica Jones, and we had characters that popped up in Daredevil, and there were instances where they had to protect them and represent them. However, again with because I know like with both of those shows, yeah, they had an okay budget, but they didn't have Disney money backing them, so like they didn't have
Yeah,
like
of course.
the major resources there. So with that regard, in terms of caliber, I'm saying like versus having, I'm trying to think, I think it was the Wizard, if you recall, that appeared in Jessica Jones for like a brief moment in that series. We may be able to have like we can actually have characters from the films pop up because
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
so
That's what they
closely
said.
tied.
That's what they're
So
saying.
you could have
Yeah.
Spider-Man pop up. You could have Rhodes pop up. I mean, we have all these shows, Armor Wars, all those things going on. So those can cross-pollinate and you can have those characters pop up in there. Maybe they need representation of some type. And the thing that's also cool there is that on top of what you have with the resources of having what you have in not just the other Disney Plus shows, but also in the films, is that it still has, yeah, you're right, they did reference a lot of those MCU things. It's just that I never felt that those shows, their events, had a definitive impact
Oh, of
on
course, that
the
was the
films
difference
going
because
forward.
it was
So
like in the
that's going to be
past.
something cool
It was
going forward.
like a New York City based past that just focused on that city. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So yeah,
And then I was going to say,
that's
to
the
also
difference.
be clear about what I was talking about with Spider-Man, I guess more so not necessarily being in in a courthouse or a courtroom, but just the generic idea, just the generic idea of how
and Civil
being
War,
a superhero impacts, like legally, like impacts our society. And so, like I said, we have that with Civil War, and we also have, you know, the different stipulations that go into effect, which is how we got the creation of Vulture, of him feeling kind of like he was basically a disgruntled worker because he was upset that he
didn't get the contract
because they took all his work away, and because of little stipulations in their paperwork.
Right. They could have some of those characters. But it'll be interesting. Like, I don't know. She's I would think she's probably a defense.
So she would more likely represent Vulture in that situation.
That's the thing, though. Is she going to be like have a consciousness and be like, I'm only going to, because that's what was cool about Daredevil. It's like he would only represent people that he could tell are innocent, or he can hear their heartbeat, be like, all right, you're really innocent. He didn't want to represent the big criminal cases or whatever. So that's what I'm saying. And but you know how like Marvel was saying that they want to bring Charlie Cox back, they want to bring Daredevil back, and I'm sure with John Bernthal as Punisher, I know it's gonna be a little bit weird. And obviously Mahershala Ali died as Cottonmouth, but now he's gonna be Blade. I mean, whatever. People, if you had a smaller character, even though he was good,
variants.
Hey, whatever. I mean, maybe. Yeah. But I'm just saying the idea of like that some of these characters are really good. And then obviously with the Spider-Man movie, I mean, they're not even hesitating to be like, oh, we like Kevin Feige's like, I always love Alfred Molina as Dr. Ock, and to bring these other. So, I mean, I feel like the characters that seem to be loved by, a lot of these, like the fans love from the previous versions of some of these movies or shows or just characters, how they were portrayed. Like they're going to, like I said, they want to bring them back. And incorporate them. I just think, like I said, that's just what I think will make it interesting if they eventually can do that. At least start with a cameo, maybe bring that back, because like I said, that's what I really enjoyed about those shows, like how they finally connected. Obviously with Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and then the Punisher. But because they didn't interact with anything else that was going on, because obviously it seemed like it was just in the past in New York City, and they're just dealing with that. It's like there's only so much, obviously there's only so much they could do, and also with the budget being limited or whatever, for whatever reason, I feel like it's good now that they can do this. But yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, if you got all these criminals from the Spider-Man movies, now they're, like I said, they're in prison, or even with, like I said, U.S. agent. I mean, now he's working with the CIA or whatever that organization is, I guess. And Hawkeye, I mean, even with the Hawkeye, I mean, like, come on, even though they had the blip, he killed all those people. So I mean, I wonder if they can address all that.
We're gonna, from what I understand, we're gonna address those repercussions in his series too.
But I'm saying, like, also, is he just gonna be on the run, or is he? I mean, he's gonna need probably legal representation. I mean, that's so. All of those are really cool, like how they could get into that. And even with Captain America, I mean, of course he saved the day, but remember what's his name was like, what was the guy's name? Thunderbolt or Ross or whatever, General Ross. What a secretary.
Yeah.
Like how he was like, do you think all is forgiven? Like just because he's saving the world again, he still was a fugitive. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember him getting a pardon or nothing. He went back in the past, of course, and lived his life. But there's still a lot of threads that haven't been completely
wrapped up.
The storyline. So that's what's going to be. And the teaser looked pretty cool, and I think it looks interesting. And I think it is a good character to give a show to. I'm also just glad that these are new characters that they're introducing with these shows, because it was cool having the spin-offs, and continuing some of those supporting characters' stories and giving them shows. But now it's like, I like how they're, if you're not going to if some people maybe don't really need a movie, and you don't really, you need to introduce someone with a film, and you don't want to just make them a supporting character. Now Disney has obviously have the resources, and they're pushing hard for these Disney Plus shows. I think it's good. Like, introduce some new characters with the shows, and then maybe have them pop up in some of the movies later, or maybe eventually give them a movie. I mean, so I'm excited to see that. I mean, how they tie it in, because.
And I want to also be clear too, because we hopped into it, and then we just kind of feel like we went on a tangent with these two series. We also have Miss
Miss
Marvel as well, and I
That's pretty
feel
good
like
too.
we
I
need
like it.
to get into that as well, because just talking about the diversity piece angle that's there, and having her as a superhero, just in the same way that we have Spider-Man out there, that we have another young superhero that's on the rise. Like, I feel like that there's something to be said there as well. So your thoughts on that?
No, I think it's great. I mean, she's like the first Muslim superhero in the MCU, Pakistani. I mean, that's great, and it's like it's a female character. I wasn't really, well versed in her role, her comics. Even though I know like the original Ms. Marvel was, it was different. It was like it was Carol Danvers or whatever. She was really Ms. Marvel, and then they had other captains. I mean, whatever. It's fine. I always think of Ms. Marvel as Rogue absorbing her powers in X-Men universe, but whatever. It's fine. This new version is cool. And then with the sequel, the Marvels, like I'm sure they're gonna pass the baton or do whatever and show how they team up. But it's interesting how they're doing this, because like I said, the Miss Marvel / Captain Marvel character, I mean, is pretty diverse. I mean, you have obviously a white female character, but then also you have the Pakistani American Muslim character, but then you also have the African American Photon. She becomes Captain Marvel too. I mean, in the comics at least. So I think she was like actually the first one that was named Captain Marvel for a female, because what's her name was Miss Marvel. So it's like, well, whatever.
I was gonna say there's another cool element to this that I don't feel like enough people are talking about when it comes to this character, is that she has ties to the Inhumans, and so by having I know you're laughing. This is exactly why I'm bringing this up.
Are they gonna redo?
I know exactly. This is exactly what I'm getting at. Is that by having this character in here, and if people really buy into this character and really love this character, it provides a back door into them revisiting the Inhumans and doing that again. Because I know,
do they need to really go back there? Do we really need Inhumans again? I mean, I'd rather them get back into get the X-Men going. I felt like Inhumans was kind of like a transition. It was something that Marvel could do because they didn't have the rights to the X-Men. They're like, oh, we're gonna do our own. We're gonna explore these characters.
But
then
you know what?
Now you just had Eternals.
See, here's the thing, though. I think that there's still an opportunity to do something really cool with the Inhumans, and by having you allow the dust to settle, so to speak, and allow some time to pass. So people can kind of get the bad taste out of their mouth out of like the initial series. We're having a similar thing happen with a couple of other IPs as well. I mean, the X-Men are still, we still don't really have an idea or semblance of when that's coming. I know there have been some dates that have dropped where we haven't had an announcement of what Marvel project those are going to be. I know a lot of people are thinking that it might be the new iteration of the X-Men, but you allow enough time to pass, you can plant little seeds there. Like, you don't have to like hop right into the Inhumans. Like, you can allow a little time to pass. You can plant the seeds of, yes, she is, having those ties to the Inhumans, and then you can start, using the other shows. You can start using other shows to kind of platform those characters. Because I mean, it's not unheard of in Marvel where we'll have a character pop up in something else. Maybe a character that Marvel isn't exactly sure will fly or won't exactly work on their own. So they'll plop them into another story. And if they really take off, then they'll, give them their own thing and show this whole other like pocket of the MCU because of, the interest in that one character. So they can kind of use that, use this character as a platform.
What character is it?
To do that.
Is it the Black Bolt? Is he in it? No, or is it supposed to be?
No. But I'm just saying, like, you can use some tie, because of her abilities. And then that's another thing too.
Yeah. Oh, and the Kree, because the Kree created. See, but I'll tell you my thing. This is my only. It's not even. I mean, yeah, maybe somewhere down the line. To me, I just really don't care, because it's like I feel like you already had Guardians of the Galaxy as a separate team, and they had their own personality, and that was cool, and that worked, and I like that. Now you have Eternals. I mean, Eternals is not bad, but I feel like that's already a challenge for people to be like, do I care about these godly beings or whatever here? And it's like, what, you want to have another team? It's like, I don't know. For me, I'm more interested. To me, I have no interest in having some other team of like.
Well, here's the thing.
X-Men, because X-Men has enough. To me, they have enough interesting characters that could have solo films or whatever. I'm more interested in like, let's see what Blade's doing in his universe. Let's see.
But here's the thing, Jerome. I know you were saying why do we need another team? Reality check for you. We want to have a whole bunch of teams pop up in here. Like we
I know,
but
do we need to focus on? But you see how everything, you see how they're introducing. Usually they introduce solo characters and then build the team, and that's what makes it interesting. You can bring in some other teams, but I'm just saying like that becomes a problem when you just bring in a team of people and it's like now they're a de facto extra group that you have to deal with, and it's like,
well, here's the thing. Here's the element that you have here, because like with the Inhumans, and then we're starting with a lot of our stories. We're venturing out into the galaxy, like we're going off world with a lot of our stories, and so with the Eternals, they were on. And I apologize. I'll let me see. Let me just do this. You know where I'm going with this.
There's not that much spoilers up in there.
You know where I'm going to go with this. But here's the thing.
You ain't even spoiling that much when you watch.
All right. So spoiler. So Eternal spoiler. They go out into space, and my picture is they're not coming back to Earth anytime soon. They're probably going to stay out there in the galaxy. So with them staying out in the galaxy. The Inhumans, if I recall, they have a base on the moon. So like they're still within the confines of like Earth and still, having affairs that are taking a place on Earth. Yeah, so you still have that element there. I mean, we have the What If show where we have the Watcher. So like, you have things that you've already planted where you can have different things working, with what's happening on the moon. You also have, Wakanda as well. They have, a base that's out in space as well. So like that's and I'll look it up as well. I want to say it's on the moon. I could be wrong. You guys can correct me there. I'm gonna look it up here. But I'm by having those elements there. Having the Inhumans and how they factor into things, and then if you decide to go off world with the Wakandans and having them have a base out in space, it gives you places to go. And I'm saying you don't have to do it like right now at this moment, but it just opens the door. It provides an olive branch of those characters potentially.
I guess all I'm saying is like, that's to me. I mean, whatever. I don't run Marvel, whatever. It's up to Kevin Feige, and they can do it. They're going to do whatever they want to do. But I'm just saying, I would think to me, Inhumans is just such a low priority. I'd be like, I just am not really interested in those characters. You could bring them in maybe way later. I'm just more interested in like, if you're going to do another team up or an additional team, I'd rather, what about there's Excalibur, like there's West Coast Avengers. That's why X-Men is so crucial. And with Deadpool, there's X-Force, there's X-Fact. I'd rather you get into those groups first before you get into these Inhumans that have like, maybe you could sort of touch into it. I'm just saying. And then there's Illuminati, there's Defender. I mean, there's so many other, I think, way more interesting.
With Black Bolt, who is, if I recall, part of the Illuminati.
Yeah, but whatever. I mean, he's not on those other ones. I'm just saying, it's like to me, there's just more interesting. I feel like there's way more interesting groups that they could introduce that are also interesting solo characters that they can interconnect. That should be more of a priority than I don't know, than Humans. I mean, they had their chance. I mean, they could try again later, but it's like you also got to follow like what's working and what's not. I mean, there obviously is an appetite for X-Men to come back in the fold. They just obviously, they got to give it some time. But like I said, I mean, what's going to happen with the next Deadpool movie? Are we going to get X-Force in there? I mean, are they going to do? They were supposed to do an X-Force film, and like I said, there's a lot of different, I feel like groups and team ups that they could do first, or just like different. I mean, and even with Aliens, it's like I feel like, we've done so much. They've done a lot with the Kree. Of course, they're going to continue that storyline. I'm sure with Captain Marvel sequel, and maybe there might be some elements of that in Secret Invasion. Who knows? But there are other alien races too. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm just like. I'd rather see some more of those other beings, or some of the omnipotent beings. I mean, I was really surprised in Eternals they didn't show like Eternity or something, or what is it, Living Tribunal or something, or connect it more to Thanos' history. I mean, that's to me, that was a missed opportunity. I mean, I still enjoyed it, but anyway, that's all I'm saying about that. Anyway, going back to Moon Knight, I think Moon Knight is going to be interesting.
Yeah,
it's good. Batman. It's like a kind of Batman and Two-Face. You know, I guess you could say split personalities on the Marvel side. But yeah, I didn't really know that much about his history and I didn't really read his comics like that. But you know, I always thought he was interesting visually, and you know, I'm just glad that, you know, they're bringing him out and introducing him, because they like I said, they haven't explored that. But yeah, this is exciting times to see these you know, these characters introduced in shows, and it's just going to be interesting to see which ones pop up in some of these movies, because you know, they have that, you know, that sandbox to play in.
And I'll make a correction here. I know I said the moon for Wakanda. It's known as, for those of you that are not aware out there, the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda.
Oh, really? Okay.
So like it wasn't out in the moon per se. It is out in space, but I'm just saying, just the opportunity to be able to venture out, you know, going forward, to be able to do that would be really cool. And I mean, you're already doing that with some of your characters already. So it like I said, the sky's the limit in terms of the opportunities that's there. They don't have to get into the Inhumans, but at least, you know, it provides an avenue for them to go. Should, you know, Miss Marvel, that character, really take off and really, you know, strike a chord with fans. So, but let's see. Next story that we have switches. You know, speaking of the galaxy, in a galaxy far, far away. Love that transition there.
Not really, right?
I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back on that segue. But yes, in a galaxy far, far away, we know that there is going to be an Obi-Wan KENOBI series that is coming to us, and in an announcement, or I should say, in a story that we were shown for Disney Plus Day, there was information regarding that series, and just that idea of potential rematch between teacher and student. So let me pull up the picture in question.
The first rematch, because I mean, they already had a rematch in the series, so it's really the first rematch.
So a rematch regardless. So,
I mean,
let me be more specific.
A real rematch, maybe.
A rematch that is reminiscent of what happened in episode 3.
Or actually a real rematch where probably he's not gonna just be like, just strike me down. You can.
But yes, they showed
strike me down and I'll become more powerful than you, meaning I'll be.
They showed some concept art. They showed some concept art of the upcoming series, and unlike before, where, you know, we have Anakin, you know, in his human guise, he is now fully Darth Vader, you know, in this picture. And as I said, yes, you know, there have been many, you know, rematches, so to speak, and even past this point, there will be another one that we know in the lore of Star Wars. But just the thought of just seeing these two go at it again, you know, what are your thoughts, Jerome? I know in terms of your Star Wars fandom, it runs far deeper than mine. So, you know, your
I keep thinking that, you know, I keep laughing when you say that, because I was like, I thought you.
It is. I'll give props. But go ahead.
No, but I mean, no, I think it's great. I mean, look, this is what I think that's great that they're doing that. It's fine. And this one will be a little more interesting because, like I said, I'm sure Obi-Wan is not going to be he's going to be fighting for his life. And he's like, yeah, you know, and he, like I said, he already pretty much, you know, he thought he killed Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. I mean, he chopped his legs off in his arm. I mean, spoiler if you haven't seen Revenge of the Sith. But yeah, this is good to see, like, a rematch from that, where it's like, okay, now Darth Vader's in Darth Vader form, and he's got his cyborg, you know, costume on, and he's ready to fight again. You know, his breathing equipment, and that's how strong he is. Like, you chop off my legs, you chop off one of my arms, and I'm still coming at you. You know, the Force is strong with Anakin. What I'm really interested in is, I don't know if they said, but I hope Liam Neeson has a cameo in this. He better, because he needs to learn how to be a Force ghost. That's what I thought was going to be really interesting about the series. Like, because, you know, when Yoda at the end of Revenge of the Sith, he said, "There's still much you have to learn," you know, or whatever, to Obi-Wan. It's like, yeah, he needs to learn how that. To me, they have to have that as an arc because that's the only reason I would think that's the only reason why Obi-Wan would just let Darth Vader kill him in A New Hope, because he knows that he's going to be even more powerful as the Force Ghost, you know. So, and I feel like Qui-Gon, yeah, because remember he said Qui-Gon is on there. You know, he said so. I have a feel like Liam Neeson definitely has to have a cameo in the series, and I'm sure he's going to teach him how to be a Force Ghost. Like I said, if they don't show that, I feel like they're missing a big, you know, an opportunity that they already alluded to in the prequels and the original Star Wars, well, Episode 4. But yeah, I mean, look, and as long as, like I said, James Earl Jones, he can still do the voice, man. As long as you got James Earl Jones doing the voice, we're good. I mean, you know, Hayden Christensen is pretty much just. I really, unless he's going to be taking off his helmet a lot of times. I mean, I feel like he's just going to be a body inside there, and like I said, you got to have James Earl Jones' voice because to me, he really is Darth Vader. That voice, like, I mean, of course, the actor playing, you need the body in there, but without James Earl Jones' voice, like, there is no Darth Vader. I mean, that's Darth Vader. I mean, there's a reason why George Lucas, cast James Earl Jones to do the voice. But yeah, I mean, it'll be also interesting because it's like they were saying that this is a time where, of course, like the Empire came into power, they killed most of the Jedi, and like Obi-Wan, it's pretty much, I guess you just have Obi-Wan and mainly Obi-Wan and Yoda, and I guess there's like, well, I guess, yeah, you had Mandalorian, you had the Baby Yoda, Grogu, and you had Ashoka, whatever her name is. I probably butchered the name. So you have really sparse, small amounts of Jedi that survive that are all around trying to stay safe and protect, you know, I guess their teachings and just reteam with the rebellion. So that's going to be interesting, where it's kind of like a chase, almost like a hunt type of film where they're hunting them down. And then also the idea of like Obi-Wan has to protect a young Luke and Leia, or at least Luke, because Leia is staying with, is on that, was it Alderaan or whatever. So, and it's interesting how they got Joel Edgerton or whatever to play his father again, like in the prequel. I totally forgot about that. I was like, yeah, he was in the prequels playing the younger version of his I guess his, what was it, his foster parents or whatever, his uncle or whatever. But yeah, that's going to be interesting, and the homage to, you know, the original film and Return of the Jedi, and show more Tatooine and how Obi-Wan is like really this nomad. You know, I feel like it's also going to be somewhat like similar to a samurai type of show, you know, but on his side from a Jedi standpoint, because I mean that's basically what he was. You know, he's like a Ronin or a nomad. And it would be nice. It'd be interesting though to see like what other cameos you're gonna have. Are they gonna connect it with like the Mandalorian, or these other? Well, actually, no. The Mandalorian was way later because of Luke. That was after, yeah, Episode 6. So it's gonna be more. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they connected with. Maybe what about with, yeah? What about with like what is it? What's his name? Darth Maul and that whole operation after Solo. Because what's it called? That would be interesting. But yeah, I'm excited to see this show. I mean, I think it's going to be amazing, and you know, it's good to see that they're getting some of the same actors back, and they're continuing these storylines, and they're filling us in on what happened during these times. And the cast seems pretty interesting. I think, was it Kumail Nanjiani and O'Shea Jackson Jr. They're in it. It'd be interesting to see who they're playing in this show, and the what's it called? Just the diversity of the actors they're hiring and putting into these shows just shows you like Disney really is making that a priority. So I'm excited.
I was going to say the big takeaway for me is that, you know, when you're doing a series like this, you know, the question is, are you still going to have that same dynamic that people expect, or that pedigree that you expect from the films? And, you know, by illustrating this, it kind of, you know, puts people at ease that, yeah, we have a Star Wars show. yes, there's going to be lightsaber battles. Like there's going to be, battles on par with, what you've seen in the films. And it's going to not just be, some new characters that we're introducing. It's going to be some of the most iconic characters that we have, in our universe. So to see this, to have one of, like I said, for me, to have a rematch of what appears to be happening on Mustafar. So for those of those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the planet in which that fate befell Anakin in Star Wars, that to kind of come full circle and to have them battle it out again from what it looks to be Mustafar is pretty cool. So I'll just be interested to see. I don't really have as much skin in the game as others when it comes to expectations. So I'll just be interested to see what comes of it at the end of the day. Do you have any other thoughts before we move on?
Yeah. Well, also because the time period is going to be close to. Eventually, I'm sure it's going to be close to Rogue One. So I would think there would be some connection.
He would still be there, yeah.
Yes, and and that's what was great about Rogue One, because you're just watching it. It's focused on that heist mission. They're trying to get the plans, steal the plans, do all that. But then it's like, oh snap! I totally forgot Darth Vader's gonna show up, and then he had that badass scene. It's like that really hit hard, because I was like, wow, like I didn't even really think about that. But it's like, no, it makes sense. These guys are trying to leave. Okay, the stormtroopers can't get them, but then you bring out your big gun, Darth Vader. He takes everybody out. But then that's showing how dangerous it was. And then they finally got the plans out. So I'm feeling like that's the type of Darth Vader we're going to be seeing in this this show too, because he's like,
for sure,
he's hardcore. And he's like, there's no remorse. I mean, this is like him.
And here's another thought too, versus when he fought Luke when he was, a little older in the tooth. Like, he's still freshly made around this time as Darth Vader. So just as you were talking about with Rogue One, he's far more mobile and far more, dangerous than perhaps he was.
It's kind of like Thanos. It's kind of like Thanos in Endgame, the older Thanos.
Right, because he was younger, right?
Yeah, but also it's like, even he's just on a they're just on a mission to he's on a mission to just conquer and kill half the universe. He doesn't even have the stones yet, so he's just like, it's him using his brute force and his army, and he's just already badass. Same with Darth Vader. It's like now the Empire just pretty much took over, so they're just like infiltrating wherever. You don't get on board. We're just killing you guys. So it's like we're gonna see I feel like it's gonna be a more vicious, Darth Vader in his prime, just like wanting revenge.
Indeed.
And wanting revenge, because like I said, your boy, your mentor, like just chopped you, pretty much left you for dead. Even though he was rightfully he had a good reason to, because he gave dude a choice. He gave Anakin a choice, but like, hey man, I got the upper hand. He kind of had it coming to him, but it doesn't matter, man. Someone chops 3 of your limbs off, or I don't know, was all 4? It was 3 of them. You better believe it. He wants some. He's out for blood.
Arms and legs, no, yeah, all limbs.
I think he left one arm left. I thought he had one arm left.
No, you know what? No, you're right, because I remember he was reaching for him after the fact. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And he's still strong. You're still strong, able to survive, and then you get enhanced. I mean, so Darth Vader's he's not playing around, man. So he's gonna come at Obi-Wan. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do. It'll be interesting also, like, is it gonna be like just lightsaber battle, or is it gonna be like he's gonna be bringing it like, in the prequels, how like with Count Dooku and
no, I know, like that's what I'm saying. Like there's
opportunity for them to
really go at it. Yeah,
they're going out with lightsaber, then also using the Force, electricity force,
right,
all that. And maybe there's some other stuff. Maybe they might show some of the healing factors too that they had in, I don't know, in the sequels to the sequel trilogy, or the whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I'm excited.
But
my sister's excited. She's hardcore Star Wars anyway.
Indeed. Now, I know we were talking about X-Men a little earlier before, and it's fitting that we were talking about X-Men as another caveat of Marvel being able to, get all of that library of 20th Century Fox, is that they got many of the other IPs of 20th Century Fox, including Predator. So
we're talking about that now.
yes, we are. So
you mean Prey? You mean Prey?
We will get to that. So, in the
Prey that
story
it's good.
that we got is that for the
Pun intended.
upcoming Predator film that we will be getting, now titled Prey.
Oh my
Before
God.
it was titled as Skulls.
Skulls, yeah.
So yes, now titled as Prey, will be making its way to Hulu in the summer of next year. Now, the story, it's going to be a project that is directed by 10 Cloverfield Lane director Dan Trachtenberg, and it's actually going to follow. It's going to take place in the past, and it's going to be in the world of the Comanche Nation 300 years ago, following a character known as Naru, who's going to be a skilled female warrior who fiercely protects her tribe against a highly involved alien predator. Guess who? So, our Yautja alien taking on the Comanche nation. Excuse me. So Jerome, you hear these thoughts and or should say this news of what's going to be happening, with the next installment of Predator, and I know you have some very, very strong opinions. So I will let you, get your word in and vent. So go for it.
Like if you didn't hear, like I said, I pray that it's good. Pun intended. No. Anyway, what's it called? Oh, look. Hey, I'm a fan of the Predator franchise. I'm a fan. Look, I'm gonna be honest. I know not everyone might agree, but I liked Predator. I like Predator 2. I know not everyone liked the second one, but I like the second one. And I thought I like the first Alien versus Predator. I liked all those are the three I really like. Predators, it was all right, and then that new one, the Predator, it's like, did I really need it? The Alien versus Predator Requiem, that one I thought was terrible, even though it was more hardcore. Dude, my thing is this. I think they're almost following the Terminator route where it's like, oh, this didn't work. Let's try another version because it didn't do well. And we try another version. And it's like, they're like, we got to try and get something out of this franchise because it's just dying. We can't make it come back, and Aliens.
Yeah, just throwing stuff at the wall.
I'm like, yo, I know there's disagreements about, for some reason people didn't like the second one because it was in the city. I thought that's what made it interesting because it was a different setting. I felt like because there was some backlash to that, everyone's like, the only reason a Predator movie is good is if we bring it back to the jungle. Let's just bring it to another jungle. Let's go to another jungle. That's not why the first one was so good. The first one was good because it was in jungle, but it's the characters too that were fighting, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Carl Weathers, Bill Duke, Jesse Ventura. They were all interesting characters and like had their own technique. And it was, it was also a novelty for those 80s, late 80s, early 90s action movies. Like, like I said, and we were talking about this before, like you're not really going to have that same, personality and tone now because it's a different time. Only Predator sequel I am interested. I will say it again is I want to see one. If they are going to make one, then this. I'm sorry. Like, I mean, to me, I have the lowest expectations for this, even though it could be good, but I'm going to go in with super low expectations because it just sounds like they're just throwing extra crap at the wall to see whatever the hell sticks. And it's like, whatever, let's go with a prequel and then another whatever. It could be good. I'm not gonna hate. I will still watch it. But the only sequel that I am really interested, or any other Predator additional entry that I'm interested in, is a sequel that has Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny Glover. And then maybe that, they're because the whole idea to me was they were the only two people who survived fighting the Predators, like back in the day with the original trilogy. Then they added all this other stuff, and it's like everyone's trying to remake or do something, And there were cool elements in some of these other sequels. And at least Alien versus Predator, they brought in the idea of how aliens and predators have been, they've interacted, and predators will hunt them. That's how it's like a way to like,
well, yeah, it's a part of their culture.
Growth. It's part of their growth. That's cool. I liked all that stuff, and even though it wasn't rated R, but whatever. To me, that was like the only other one. But all these other ones, I don't. It's like you can introduce character. To me, I'm just not interested in that. Like I really wanted to see what Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny Glover's character were gonna do if they were like the only two people who survived killing the predator, fighting a predator, and how they would interact or whatever, or how maybe they're, they would deal with a new threat. And just seeing that continue, but I don't know. Everyone wants to try and remake everything and try to bring new characters, and I mean, I'm just not interested in some of these storylines. It's like just because this is in the past and there's like, let's not get it twisted. It sounds like it's gonna be the jungle.
Yeah.
Just by putting the predators in the jungle does not make the movie good. I feel like there's something in the back of whoever is greenlighting these movies saying we need to have it in the jungle and it's automatically good. That's not what makes the movie good. Like that is not the only. That was one of the reasons the first one was good, but that is not the only reason. Like if those characters in that movie were like just not interesting, and if they didn't have the same type of terror and heart and suspense too, like that was also it was the novelty, like the whole idea of like this invisible, creature just coming out of nowhere and kill. Like they really showed it. Like man, like I mean, it was an action movie. It was also kind of like a horror movie too, like a suspense, like a sci-fi horror action movie. That's why it was so cool.
And I have some other thoughts on that too to add to what you're saying. So like
that's just my beef with it, and I'm just like,
no, I got
until we get that. And like I said, I don't care. And I like that. What I liked about the second one too. I don't care if people disagree because I like the second one. I thought it was maybe not as good as the first one, but I thought it was a really good sequel because the idea of bringing the predators in the city and like they're thinking that they're these gang members, and then it's like and then you got to see that there were more predators coming back and they've been coming for a while. That was kind of interesting, and then Alien vs Predator kind of like just added to that, but. To me, that's what made Predator too cool. And I was like, yo, Danny Glover is just thinking that someone killed his friend. This is the military. No, it's a predator. And it's like, it comes out, it's almost like it comes out of nowhere. Where he's like, he doesn't know what the hell, how to deal with it, but he found a way to kill him. It's like, same with Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger's just like, he figured out, if I hide in some mud, they can't see my heat signature. So he found a way. He uses guerrilla warfare tactics, to defeat this really dangerous, alien. But they never explored that. I mean, unless Schwarzenegger did, I guess he didn't want to come back, or Danny Glover. I don't know. They couldn't do the deal or what. I don't know what happened. But I mean, I don't think it did as well. Maybe that's probably the main thing. But that's the only sequel I was interested in ever. I never was interested in all these other, except for the Alien vs Predator one. That was cool because of how they brought over, they interconnected both franchises, and I thought it was an interesting story how they brought it together. But I guess in the end, like, and I guess you could even bring Sanaa Lathan in, maybe have her in there because she survived. So why not? But they did connect, like, how they, at least with that movie, they connected Lance Henriksen's character. That was cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
And they did stuff like you could do stuff like, but I don't know, man. These new ones.
They did, for better or for worse. I know people don't like that sequel. The AVP sequel. They continued that. Yeah. They did continue that plot thread of the Weyland Yutani Corporation because they had the Yutani component. They had their portion of the corporation feature in that sequel. And I guess in the future they end up merging together as one company.
But they had none of the characters. They just had different characters, and it's just, I don't know. And I felt like they just made that gorier. And it was cool having the Predator alien in there, but like that was it. It's like I didn't like I said, you could have there's a bunch of horror action movies or whatever. You could kill off everybody if you don't care about who's getting killed. Like it doesn't matter. Like that's my thing. It's like, there's history with some of the characters.
Well, here's my thoughts. And then a lot of what you said I agree with is that the reason why the first Predator works is because of certain elements or components that you have in it. It's not necessarily the jungle that does it. As you were saying, I agree with that. I feel it's the ensemble. I also feel that it's that, and it's to a degree a variation of what you were saying, is that you have that obstacle of the Predator and the technology that he has at his disposal, yes. Versus what our army had at their disposal. They seem completely, out of their element or outclassed by, the technology that he had at his disposal, whether it was being able to camouflage or even like, the cannons and the guns and the different melee weapons that he had. He just seemed to completely outclass them in every way in terms of his tactics and in terms of the tools that he had. So I see what they're trying to do with this project. In that same way, as I say that, is they're trying to really, show that, provide that suspense and that horror by really having by going back into the past, it really puts, you know, our protagonists or our group of protagonists at a disadvantage because they really are not, you know, up to snuff in terms of the tools that they have versus what the Predator may have. So I see what they're trying to do with that story. I'm not saying that it will work, but I understand, you know, what the execution. But I'm saying I understand why they would go into the past because it's an attempt to recapture that element of the Predator and their tools far outclassing ours and the protagonist's tools and what they need to do in order to take out the Predator. So I get that component of it. It's a bummer because like I really do like the Predator franchise. I mean, I love the first one. Obviously, I know a lot of people have their detractors and naysayers when it comes to the second one. I love the Danny Glover
I thought it was
Predator 1 too. You know, I like that whole element of it took place at the time. It's weird to look back at it now if you look at it, but like when the movie came out, it was supposed to take place a little bit into the future.
Yeah.
So you know, just that idea of what their semblance of like future LA would be like and what it is now. I'm like, that is nowhere where you know LA is like.
To be, though. Yeah,
I want to say it was like it was a couple of years into the 2000s.
Yeah.
No. I'll look at it again. It may be like the turn of the century. I can't remember, but it was but whatever the case is, it was supposed to take place a little bit into the future and give kind of like a scope of where LA would be at that time. You know, you have some other cool characters. Again, talking about ensemble, you have Bill Paxton in there, who's awesome. And yeah, I mean, you have all these other, you know, Gary Busey, yeah. What's his name? Baldwin's in it too from Serenity from Firefly. So I mean, you have you know, all these other cool characters in there.
Ruben Blades is in it.
Yeah, him as well. So like you have that element in there, and it's a bummer, you know, thinking of the other installments, you know, the potential that was there and what they were trying to do. Because I remember, like, you know, I think you, I feel like this was what you were talking about is when they had the Predators installment with
Lawrence
Brody.
Fishburne and Adrian.
Adrian
Brody and Topher Grace.
I remember at that time before that movie came out, like, you know, that current installment was like in development hell, and the idea was originally was to have all the champions of Predators, and that would have been really cool, like to have Schwarzenegger, and Glover, and like to have the Predators say, okay, let's do like an all-star. You know,
but they didn't do it though. They didn't bring it.
I know. But I'm saying, like, to have all. But I'm saying, hold on. To have like all-star prey of like all these people that have defeated members of our species. So because they could have thrown Sanaa Lathan in there too, because this came out after.
No, that came out before. Did it? That came out before Alien vs. Predator, I think. Because
Alien versus.
I'll look it up right now.
Look it up because Alien versus.
I remember because I saw that before.
Look it up because Alien versus Predator came out in 2004. That Predators film came out after.
Let's see. Predators.
The first Aliens versus Predator came out in 2004. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, Predators came out in 2010, but the first Alien versus Predator.
So 6 years, 2004, because I remember it was graduating from high school.
Oh yeah, you know what? That makes sense. I think I remember now. Alien versus
the first one
versus Predator.
Was it 2003, 2004?
No, you know what? You know what it was? You're right. It was they missed. They purposely. Yeah, you're right. After that came out, they purposely were like, let's just do this other one. That's what it was. All right, so my bad. But I was mad. I was like, yo, what the hell? Why didn't they connect them? That's what it is. That's what it was.
Because I'm saying, to your point, like they could have added her in there too, because not only did she beat a Predator, she beat an Alien Queen. So like she worked with
the help of a Predator.
okay, tomato. But I'm just saying, like, it would have been cool to have her in there along with Danny Glover and with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then like have them exchange notes of like what they've been up to since, you know, their run-ins with Predators. So you had that film. It's not I know people hate that film. It's like it is what it is. It's an okay film. Like it's all right. The Predator, the most recent installment, I'll have to admit it's a guilty pleasure for me. It's not better than the first. It's not better than the first two Predator
It
films,
seemed
mind you.
unnecessary, man. That
Hold
was
on,
pretty good. That
it's
was
not
pretty
better than the first two Predator films, mind you.
good. Or
But
Alien vs. Predator. Or
I
Alien
still enjoy it. You know, because of you know, the some of the humor that you have like in the film, and then even though it is kind of, it was kind of a bummer to have them repeat it. It was still a cool character design, is what they did with that giant predator. Because I mean, like if we remember, like even in Predators, they had that whole subplot of a different species of predator.
Yeah,
I was
like
like,
the
oh, okay,
dogs
we're
or
doing this
whatever,
again.
or like
Yeah, I was like, we're doing this again. But like the design of that giant predator was cool, even though it was a repeat of that type of subplot of having a different predator. And then fun fact, from what I understand, like another bummer, which again goes back to the potential that you could have had with this film, is that you recall the scene that they had at the end, right? Like I understand that
which movie?
the predator, the predator.
Yeah.
So like at the end of that scene, we have we understand that this predator that came to Earth, you know, brought this weapon in order to combat, you know, any predators that, you know, had kind of like souped up and experimented on themselves to be different than a regular predator. So to kind of even the playing field, one of the predators sent, you know, the weapon. We come to find out by the end of the movie, sent a weapon there for us to defend ourselves against, you know, future visits from predators. And in the film, we have it as like this suit of armor, but from what I understand, that wasn't what the plan was originally. It was supposed to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was supposed to be his character who was still, you know, in pristine condition, like still in his, you know, prime age from the first, from what I understand, the first Predator film. To act as a secret weapon against the any future
Why would
threats.
he be in this? I mean, remember he left on the helicopter at the end of the movie.
He did, but maybe he got snatched up at some point between
That's just
that
bad
movie.
writing. I mean, I like Shane
But
Black.
I'm just saying, like from what I understand, and I'll look it up again. I'll look
That's
up
why
in
the
the
movie
details,
wasn't
but I
that good.
understand
That's
that
why
he
it wasn't as
did
good.
pop up
Okay.
in. He was going to pop up in there. But anyway, like I said, so many missed opportunities. Like I feel like with this franchise, I'm still going to check out this installment because I you know I love that the lore, and I love that those characters of the Yautja, that species. So I'm still going to check it out, but I will come in with some skepticism, you know, going in. And then on top of that too, with the whole idea of still kind of with it being a part of the Disney umbrella, like if they can really go there
No, it's
with
going to be
the
on Hulu.
franchise.
No, they are.
It is going to be on Hulu.
Deadpool 3
Yeah.
is going to be R-rated. I mean, that's how they're separating stuff. They're putting it on like because you know FX and Hulu, like that's under Disney too. They just keep the branding.
Right.
There's a
But
way to do
I'm
it.
just
They're just
saying,
not going to
I
say.
still think that it won't, it'll be, mind you, it'll be more adult than what they can probably
Of
put
course,
on
yeah.
adult on, what is it, on Disney Plus. But I'm still hoping that they really, really go there with, you know, what we expect out of a Predator
But you got to
film, which
remember,
is uber violent.
Disney owned Touchstone, and it was Hollywood Pictures back then. Like,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
they've been doing serious movies. Just you don't know it's Disney because you're not seeing the Disney logo. Like that's the brand.
That's true. That's true. So we'll see. Like I
The
said,
same
I'm
with
still a
Marvel.
little skeptical though. We'll see.
The same with Marvel. It's like you never see the Disney logo when you watch a Marvel movie. You know it as Marvel, even though it is more PG-13. But I'm just saying they do that on purpose, so they're like they keep the branding, you know, consistent with the type of the tone. But all I'm saying, you know what I think it also is. I'm just a last 2 cents on this whole deteriorating franchise. I mean, let's be real. I'm a true fan. That's why, you know, I just want it to be better. What is it called? I think it also what made the first two really good was not only was it it was something different. Like the characters didn't know what the hell they were going up against. And they thought it was maybe like the military or some random threat. They had no idea what it was. And then they discovered it was a predator. They still had that same essence in Predator 2, even though they eventually found out, oh, there have been some that came before, like the Gary Busey character. I think that's a crucial element. Having the characters have no idea, and there's no like, you know, they really don't know how to fight this thing. And then, you know, obviously they got some help from people who did have some experience. But I feel like if you kind of replicate that, but then also really put it in a different setting, and then have, like I said, have some interesting characters, an ensemble, or maybe connect from the previous films somehow, and just like, and then maybe it's like kind of like what you were saying with some of these other movies, maybe have different types of predators, or you have the giant, I don't know, add on to that. I feel like if you have all those elements and there's some connection, then there'd be, to me, it would be a little more interesting. As opposed, I feel like they just kept trying to remake and redo something that didn't work. Like I said, just like with the Terminator franchise, even though I like the last Terminator, but it obviously is not as good as the second. It basically was like a remake of the second one. It was better than some of the other sequels. But like for me with the Terminator franchise, I would have liked to see more of like what happened in Terminator Salvation, like in the future, because at least that's a different storyline. That's something different. So I feel like with Predator, same sort of thing. Like, maybe have some of those elements put in a different location, a different area, and like you have some sort of connection to the past ones, but then also have some sort of like different type of predator, or there's a different, I don't know, like if they're mutant, all those elements I feel like need to have some sort of differentiation and then also some sort of connection to the past to see where some of those characters went. Because like otherwise, like I said, what happens is then you have a lot of these characters who maybe just die, and I'm like, I don't care what's gonna, like I said, I can't remember. I mean, I like Olivia Munn, I like what's his name, the dude from Moonlight, he was in the last one, but like I could care less like what
Oscar Isaac.
There's no yeah. Oh yeah. Well, wait, he was in it. Wait, which one? He was in the last one too. Oscar Isaac? I don't even remember.
See, no. Apocalypse.
No, he wasn't in it. Yeah. No, you mean the dude from Logan? He was in it. The Stuart, the Boyd Holbrook or whatever. He was in it.
Oh right. Yeah. Okay.
You're talking about and Trevante. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, okay. If they somehow, and it's weird because Shane Black, who directed and he wrote it, he was in Predator. He was Hawkins or whatever. So right. I know he was trying to pay homage to the sort of like to the original, and I'm surprised he wasn't able to get Schwarzenegger for that last one or get a cameo. I know you're saying they were trying to do that, but I don't know. It didn't sound like
it was a scheduling thing.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's just, I just feel like there's these, I just wonder how they're pitching these sequels, and I don't know what they're thinking, because it doesn't sound like they were really adding much to the franchise. At least with Alien versus Predator, they were adding the alien element, so that was like, okay, there's something different there, and people have been hyped up to see that. So otherwise, I feel like just leave it alone, and I don't need another half-ass sequel or prequel, but surprise me. Maybe Prey is somewhat good. I don't know. All I know is I really thought it's going to be better than the first one.
We shall see.
Anyway, but I'm not the biggest fan of these rehash sequels that aren't really doing anything for me, but whatever. That's Hollywood for you.
There you go. So other than what we just discussed with Star Wars, and I know we've kind of been pretty Marvel heavy with some of the MCU shows, we're going to talk about yet another one, but instead of it being live action, it's animated. So as you guys saw in the little sizzle reel, the little announcement trailer that they showed, is that we will see the return of the X-Men.
Yes.
And in what way do you guys ask? So instead of it being, completely, rebooted version of the X-Men on Disney Plus, it's actually going to be a continuation of, the beloved animated series from the 90s. So, in the story, that was listed in Variety, the show is going to be called X-Men 97. As I said, it's going to be a continuation of the beloved 1990s X-Men, that decade X-Men animated series that ran for 5 seasons on Fox between 1992 and 1997. And speaking of this show, it's had such a huge impact on like my fandom when it comes to superheroes and especially the X-Men. I grew up, and you kids out there, a lot of you, if you guys are, guess what, born in the 2000s, like you guys just don't get it, man. Like 80s and 90s, like every Saturday. I know you guys don't really have it now, unless, I mean, again, maybe you do have it to a degree if you have cable, but I'm saying, like, I'm just saying, on just regular network TV, every Saturday we had cartoons come on, like, all morning, and they used to be like some incredible, lineups. You guys could tell, I could tell you guys all about it, like in terms of like Fox. I know they were mentioning that. We had shows like Fantastic Four, you had the Spider-Man, the animated series,
the
you had
Batman animated series,
X-Men, we had Goosebumps. I know you guys, enjoy those Goosebumps movies.
Man, you can watch
but
every.
we had a series.
You fell for the trick of watching all that.
And I mean, like I said, I'll go far deeper than that. I mean, you had Erie, Indiana, for those who prefer Erie, Indiana. You had Eek. You had
RoboCop. I remember that.
RoboCop. You had Tiny Toons. So like we had all of these incredible shows. Yeah, Bobby's World. Like you had all of these incredible shows. That's what I'm saying. Like growing up,
there was that one.
Silver Surfer. That one was but like Silver Surfer.
No, Silver Surfer was actually pretty decent. It was decent.
And here's the thing, like, which is why, like, it's kind of ironic that like I enjoy the films now. That you had an animated what is it, Avengers series 2 that was on for a little while, but
it was all right. It was not bad.
It was okay. But you also had, I'm trying to think.
None of them were as good as the X-Men show. To me, that
but I'm saying, so you also even had WMAC Masters. I don't know if you guys remember that show, which was kind of like, it had like martial artists, and like it was almost like American Gladiators, but with martial artists on it. So they were doing like all this, like anyway, I digress. Like I said, you guys don't know, you don't know how cool it was to be a kid in that decade and to have, lineups of cartoons to watch every Saturday and Sunday morning. Like you looked forward to that every week.
Like Spider-Man came
you had them come on in the evening.
That was to me, that was like the second best Marvel one.
Like you had that come on in the evening, in the afternoons too.
It was like 4:30 or something.
Because I'm thinking like even on Fox, like you had Batman the animated series that used to come on.
That was like the best.
They used to come on during the week. Or you would have Batman Beyond that would come on during the week sometimes too. Like back on Channel 50, WB. Back at that time, I know it's CW now, but it was WB back then. But yeah, like I said, thinking back of the resurgence of this show, like it's incredibly smart on Disney Marvel's part, to bring the show back in this aesthetic and in this iteration, because we wouldn't have the MCU as it's known today. We wouldn't have, all these, Disney Plus shows as they are today without the foundation that this show set. And I mean, like I said, I know I talk about Blade and I talk about, other films as well, but even before Blade, like we had, this animated series, and some of the other ones that I mentioned too, like Spider-Man, because like even before we had the MCU, they did crossovers on that show. Like they did crossovers with Spider-Man.
X-Men.
They did a lot of crossovers between Spider-Man and X-Men, where they did. But I'm saying they did Secret Wars and they did like all these other crossovers, which were pretty good. So like we had crossovers with those cartoons long before we had the live action edition with like the MCU. So to kind of pay homage to the importance of that show and to have it continue onwards from where that show left off, it's really exciting. And, I can't wait to see, how it continues to develop the stories that they have with that show. But Jerome, I'll put it over to you. I'll get off my rant.
That's what got my good rant. That's what got me into X-Men. Like I had some of the comics and stuff before, but like I wasn't as big in the comics, but by watching that show actually got me into collecting the cards. And I was like, yeah. And it's funny.
I remember that.
X-Men, the animated series, like was so, like
collected the figurines.
It was so good. Like I started collecting. Yeah, I collected. I have a whole bunch. I mean, I wish I didn't. I wish I bought 2 of each, so then I could keep one wrapped, not open. Right. And then I still have them back. I gotta go find them. Damn, man, they probably would have been worth so much money if I didn't open them. But whatever. I was a kid. No, but like that's the show that did it. And And even talking about, I know you watched Power Rangers. I felt like that show was so popular that
Yeah, Power
it
Rangers
tricked,
too. Like I went through that phase
people
too. I
like
mean, we
you.
had Power Rangers.
It
They
tricked
had
people like you to watch Power Rangers. It didn't trick me. I was like, I didn't want to watch that crap.
well, no, because it's
Because it
funny.
ran
Like
after,
you
and they
know,
would
with a
promote
lot
it
of
right
those
after.
shows.
But
I
they
would
would
say with
promote
a
it.
lot of those shows, you had Power Rangers, but then they started to do different delineations of it. They had
But I'm
like
saying they promote,
Beetleborgs.
but that show was X-Men was so big that they had the gall to promote this other show that I was like, what is this? But it was so big that people who watched that, then they started watching Power Rangers. Me, I checked it. I was like, yeah, I didn't like that crap, but whatever. I know you enjoyed it. I like the movie, but I'm just saying that's the power of that show. It was so big that they could promote like something else that make other
And the
people watch
age
it.
difference, man. Like
I
yeah,
just thought it was
I know
so
you.
goofy anyway. That's why I just hated that. I was like, what is this cheesy bullshit? But anyway, X-Men was dope though. Now X-Men had some, yeah, of course they had some corny episodes, but most of them were great. What is so funny though is Fox then finally like, yeah, I'm hearing that. Oh, now they're like, yeah, now we're gonna make a live. That helped inspire them also to like do the live action version. Of course, Blade, and then X-Men really hit, and then you get Spider-Man, then boom, it keeps going. But what's so funny is like they didn't. To me, that's like a little bit laughable because why didn't they like adapt it better, you know, towards the show? It's like the show had some great storyline. Of course, the show is the show, and it's not directly translating every, you know, storyline from the comics. Of course, they changed some stuff, but I'm like, yo, you guys, there were some things they changed in the movies. I'm just like, y'all, you guys would have done better just watching the damn show. You know, like that was one of my big beefs with the last X-Men movie. I mean, well, not the last, but the X-Men Apocalypse. Even though I was like, oh, they finally got Apocalypse, I'm just like, they totally didn't show his freaking, you know, the alien origin and like his technology, and like I'm like, y'all missed that, dropped that ball big. I know we had our like we've talked to one of the key people on that movie, and it's interesting hearing the story, but whatever. But yeah, it just shows you like, you know, even with that, you know, doesn't mean everyone's gonna, you know, like look to that for the source, you know, the you know the actual source of
Inspiration, yeah.
for inspiration. But now that it's back in, you know, Disney owns it, Marvel, I would think Kevin Feige's probably gonna, you know, take some of those storylines and apply them. And this is a good way to kind of like, you know, whet the appetite of everyone again to be like, oh yeah, X-Men are trying to kind of transition people back into bringing them back into the live action realm. But yeah, man, there were so many stories. I mean, like the stuff with Apocalypse and then Mr. Sinister. They still haven't brought Mr. Sinister into the live action set. And I remember like then the Time Fugitives, the one with Cable coming back. And you had Bishop. I mean, they still haven't really done. I mean, they had Bishop in the Days of Future Past, but they need to bring like he had that little role. It's like, come on, man. Like I know Method Man was a play Bishop. I think Ving Rhames would have been good, but it's all good. But yeah, I mean, you want to talk about time travel, man? That was an amazing episode when they had like Bishop coming back and he messed up everything when he was trying to save his people. Then Cable had to come back and stop him. And then, I mean, I want to see that really happen. Like, I mean, there was the thing with they had the mini series event where they had like Apocalypse teaming up with Mr. Sinister and Magneto and Saber. I mean, everyone was working together that maybe they wouldn't work together. And then like, you know, just connecting that with, you know, what's happening with the X-Men, and then you got the individual stories of Wolverine going into Japan and fighting the Silver Samurai, and then you had, I mean, there were so many good storylines, and of course, even if it's not exactly like the comics, it made me want to go back and like actually read the comic version and be like, I mean, even though I still haven't read all of them, but I was so intrigued, and like the whole Days of Future Past, and then the real. To me, like the actual storyline of having a cure that really wasn't a cure, that they messed up in X-Men The Last Stand. I was like, you guys are doing that? Aren't you guys gonna do that storyline? It's like, it's that BS where, oh, we really have a cure. No, that storyline would have been so good if it was Apocalypse being behind it, and then no one really got cured. They were just slaves of Apocalypse. I would have loved to see that, but some reason Fox, they dropped the ball again. So maybe maybe after so much time has passed, you know, they could do it right. And it's like the stories were there. It's like, and the thing with Juggernaut, like they keep messing up Juggernaut. I mean, okay, at least with the recent Juggernaut, he's bigger, but to me, I don't care what the hell. I know I've argued with some of your friends about it. It doesn't matter. There's parts of the comics that I don't care if Juggernaut was a mutant. Sometimes what made him interesting to me was that he wasn't a mutant. He got his powers separately, and he hates his brother who is a mutant, and he couldn't do anything when he was younger. Now he has a like that is interesting. It's not just like even though okay, he gets some Ruby, was it the gem of Sidorak or whatever the hell it was. You have someone who's really strong, has that power. He's not a mutant. He protects his head from his brother, who could destroy anyone with his mind. So it's like mind over matter. Like it's kind of like Superman and Lex Luthor dichotomy. I mean, that's intelligence and strength, but this is like psychic powers versus strength. Like that's interesting, And even with Bishop coming back, Days of Future Past, and then they have the other one with the virus, the techno virus, and then and then he goes back and he's like, nothing's changed. Or like, you don't know, like they kept going in. Like, I mean, now we're bringing in time travel in the MCU, man. They need to do that. They need to bring Bishop in there, and hopefully they're gonna do this, because with Kang, Kang was Rama Tut in the comics, and when Apocalypse was just being born,
exactly, it opens the door for that too. Yeah,
I'm like, to me, that's what I love. Like, that's why Apocalypse, he's my favorite character. I just love his origin story. Like, he's just badass, and it's like, it's just interesting. Like, I mean, he fought he fought Dracula in the comics, and he helped Mr. Sinister get his powers. Like, he pretty much gave him his powers in the comics, at least. But yeah, there's so many storylines they did that were interesting. They had some BS ones, but a lot of them were pretty good. So, it'd be interesting to see what they add on to that, and if they're gonna, what other storylines they're gonna add to. And then I just really hope that, like I said, you don't need to do every storyline in the movies, of course, but I really hope they adapt some of those really, really crucial ones that were just really compelling, that we haven't seen. It's like, there's so much to explore. That's why to me, I'm doing that properly, I think is more, for me, it would be more of a priority than some of these other characters that or other teams. That's why I was saying before that maybe I don't really care about as much, because like I said, get them right. And like I said, with the X-Men, you can add, like, they interact with a whole bunch of other MCU characters. I mean, like Gambit, he was hanging out with Ghost Rider back in the day. So I'm sure Gambit and Blade and all them, they probably hung out too. I mean, Miss Marvel, she got her powers absorbed by Rogue. Well, it would be Captain Marvel, I guess, in the MCU now. But that Miss Marvel, she is in a coma, and because Rogue absorbed her powers, at least, So I mean, there's so many, like, that show, I loved it so much. I mean, I have, I remember when it was on, it was hard to buy it, so I bought it on eBay, and I still have it. I'm like, once in a while I just watch them, and it goes by quick. It's like, it's pretty for that type of show. If you think about it, I mean, of course it was for kids, but it's pretty serious though. I mean,
yeah, they introduced some pretty mature stuff. So it doesn't. I was going to say, that was one of the things that I enjoyed about that series, is that even it was very sophisticated, and there was enough there on the surface that kids were able to respond to. But if you really dig deep into what they talk about, a lot of it was very mature. So I do like the fact, and that was one of the things that I enjoyed about the show, is that I don't like it when a show tries to talk down to its audience.
Exactly.
I like it better when it's sophisticated enough where it can like I said, it can have enough stuff on a basic level that a younger audience can respond to, but it can go far deeper than that, and it can have things in there as a wink to their more mature viewers to understand about what's happening. So for sure, that was one thing, because I remember even with that show, and it was kind of crazy. So shout out to my Comic-Con aunt out there, Coletta. Shout out to you. She used to, after watching that show every single week, every Saturday, she would hit me up. She's like, "Did you see what happened on X-Men this week?" And I'm like, it was like a fun thing to look forward to, to have as a kid, to have one of your relatives, one of your relatives hit you up and say, include you in their viewing experience of enjoying a show, which was pretty cool. She would hit me up every week "Oh, I miss X-Men this week." And I mean, it wasn't how it wasn't one of those situations where it's like, "Oh, I'm trying to just humor, my nephew here. I'm just trying to humor them." And she was seriously watching it every week. And if she missed it one week, she would hit me up. So, hey, tell me what happened this week, or don't tell me, because I don't want to be spoiled. And then after I watch it, I gotta talk with you and talk about what's going on, about what happened, because it's interesting too, because at that time, I'm gonna age her a little bit. When she was a kid, there was another iteration of, you know, the X-Men, which it still comes on TV, on cable. Like
Really?
it was the one. It was the one that has like Iceman, and it has
I know there was Spider-Man and Friends. I know there was that.
It was that one. But there was another one that has Colossus, and it has Jean Grey, I want to say, but she's not Jean Grey. She's Marvel Girl. She's in her Marvel Girl costume and has Iceman. So like it has most of like the lineup that we come to expect, but they have a couple of other characters that were already on the team, unlike the 90s version where some of those characters come into play later. But still, like I remember that vividly, of like sharing that viewing experience, even when we didn't even watch it together, of going over that every single week and saying, hey, did you catch what happened this week? It was pretty cool. But yeah, as I said, super excited about, you know, this 90s iteration to continue, and nothing more to be said. Any other thoughts before?
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, like you're saying, it's like, I mean, now I think about it. Like I said, they address so many. Like that's what makes the X-Men so great. And that's why, to me, those are my favorite comic book characters of all time. And that's why I like Apocalypse. And then I don't know. I don't know if I have just one hero on that side, but like what made, you know, the whole Professor X Magneto dichotomy, the whole idea, you know, it's about acceptance. It's about discrimination, acceptance. You know, it's about racism. I mean, that's what Stanley, you know, started about, like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. Which way are you gonna approach it? And that's what's so great about it. And then it's like they had elements, like the whole thing about the cure. Think about it, like that cure thing. Like it's almost like saying, hey, if you're a minority or whatever, do you not want to be it so you're not ostracized and people are discriminated against you? But that idea of like, oh, let's turn the tables, and now it makes you something worse. Like that, those are layers to the story. Then remember the Graydon Creed character. Like, I mean, he's based off of Hitler, basically. You know, like Hitler's Jewish family, actually Jewish, and he's hating Jews. Same thing, Graydon. Because
his parents were mutants.
Parents are mutants, but he's hating. He's like, no, we gotta. And that's why that episode with the techno virus, where he's behind the virus and he doesn't know Apocalypse is the one giving him the vial, and then he's like, oh, a mutant created it, and he's like, I am as far beyond mutants as they are beyond you. And it's like they all have different perspectives. It's like Professor X wants peace, so humans and mutants can coexist, like a Martin Luther King character. Magneto, he's dealt with so much violence from humans. He just wants to protect his fellow mutants at whatever cost. Even if he has to use violence, he doesn't care. It's like he doesn't care about the humans. And then you have like Mr. Sinister, who's like a scientist. He just wants to experiment on mutants and push their mutation. But yeah, like Apocalypse, he's like, he just wants the strong to survive. He's like, he doesn't care if you're mutant or human because he can wipe them all out. You know, so they all have different perspectives, and then you get to see that and how they interact with everyone. That's what makes it so interesting. And then you have like the actual storylines where like the romantic relationships, their origins, some of the some of the day-to-day lives, conflict. Like, you know, with Iceman in one episode, he left X-Men because he wanted to have a regular life, or the original X-Men. But then he finds out his girl Polaris, she
joined the whole other team and got like, with somebody else.
All that stuff is so cool. Like, imagine seeing that. Honestly, you know what would really be great eventually? I mean, maybe it might be better, even though, and now with the budget, like I said, a live action X-Men like series. Maybe that might work. I don't know. But I almost want to see an R-rated X-Men show, just because then he can push it. But I mean, even if it's PG-13, again, it could still work. But that's what made it so sophisticated and complex. It had all those elements, and it wasn't just, not everything was gray. You know, not everything was black or white. There's a lot of gray area, because like sometimes the Magneto would help out the X-Men to fight someone, or he would team up with Sinister and Apocalypse, and he's like, oh no, you guys are going too far. I'll team up with Professor. And there's a lot of times where that happened. And that's what life is. It's like not everybody, you know, sometimes you're, you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I mean, that's how it is sometimes, you know. We're in a complicated world. And it really reflected that, and it was done so well. It's like, if they can get back to that with a live action version of that, it would be really amazing. But that's what I really can't wait to see. And
definitely. And
I mean, in those storylines of Wolverine, I mean, they never brought in Omega Red yet. I mean, remember the Omega Red thing? Like, that was so good. Where like Colossus is like,
here's the crazy thing. Like Omega Red, like he was like a menacing. He was a menacing character. Like,
he was badass.
When he
like the
came on
Russian
the show, you were
version.
like, "Oh crap! Like it's a
And I
mega
love that
red."
scene where he's like the one where he's like grabbing Colossus and the girl. He's like, "Oh, feel my tendrils," and then Wolverine's like, "You cannot destroy me." And then Wolverine's like, "I did, you stinking octopus." Like I mean, that was my joy. I was like, and he had carbonadium armor. Like that was the Russians' adamantium. I mean, of course, you're seeing this now with Black Widow. Oh, I'm the Russian Captain America, but like like Omega Red, he was like their answer to Wolverine, pretty much the Wolverine with the adamantium. And like I mean, there's just so much there, and it's like the X-Men movies. There were some good ones. Okay, like I like the second one. I like the first one, second one, and First Class. And
second one and Days of Future Past are the best to me, and then after that is First Class.
To me, X-Men First Class and probably Days of Future Past, and then the second one, and then I mean whatever. They all have their elements, and they kind of got there a little bit in the second one, but then it's like, whatever happened, there wasn't as much cohesion with who was, I think, in charge of that whole series. It was more, it's before MCU.
Yeah.
Kevin Feige, it just shows when you have one person in charge of the whole, franchise, I think you have a little, it's easier to try and be consistent with the tone, even if you're switching directors or whatever. But that's what I'm saying. It's like they did touch on that with some of the movies, but there's so much, they just scratched the surface. So I'm like, you watch that show and it's like, there's so much more that this just was not introduced in the live action series, the live action movies. And I'm just like, I feel like there's so many people who are hungry for that just want to see that adaptation done right, or done even better to in its peak form. That this is a good start, a good stepping stone, I guess, to get people excited again to that. So I think that's probably also what they're doing.
But I was saying it's also smart too, in that, just that idea of, we're just like gushing over like all these memories, childhood memories of watching this show, that when we talk about bringing back sequels and like how long it takes, how long it's been since your last installment, and how tricky that can be of bringing in audiences, not just the old audience, but also the new audience as well. Doing it this way allows you to accomplish that. You're gonna bring in those older audiences that have that nostalgic feel of watching this show as kids, and then it gives them an opportunity, because let's be honest, like all of us for that generation, had kids of our own, many of us. So like you're able to introduce that passion that you had for this show to the next generation as well, and you bring in new fans that way. So you have those, you're creating those situations where you're probably going to have households that are going to be watching these episodes together because the parents watched it. So now they're introducing it to their kids and they're watching it together. So you're kind of doubling the amount of viewership that you would otherwise get. So it's very, very, very clever, very smart.
All right, next story. I think we've talked.
Yes. I know
you can see how passionate we are. I mean, this is this was my favorite. That was that's the only animated series that I bought on eBay, and I have all the because I couldn't find it anywhere else.
It was that and Dragon Ball Z for me, but yeah, I get you.
I never got to Man, you were easy to convince so much.
Get you though. No, Dragon Ball Z. Hey.
Maybe I never got to
y'all sleep on Dragon Ball Z. I know I have my fellow fans out there that show.
That's all you,
that
bro.
shows
That's
like that.
But whatever. Hey,
but anyway, moving on. Last story. We had another announcement, if you saw from the list of titles that went by the screen in that sizzle reel or trailer, if you will. And one of them was the show Echo. So I know a lot of people are wondering, who is Echo? I'm not well versed, very, specifically well versed with Echo. However, she will appear in the upcoming Hawkeye series, which is set to arrive in a couple of weeks, like very soon, actually.
Yeah, very soon.
So she's set to arrive in that show. And from what I understand, I know it's still yet to be confirmed at this point, but just a little bit about her, and then I'll tell her how she factors into, from what she factors into Hawkeye. She's a deaf Native American superhero who has the talent to imitate any opponent's fighting style. And I know you guys are saying, didn't we get that already in Black Widow? But it'll be interesting. Maybe they'll find a different way to kind of demonstrate that same ability. that we, had a specific showing of with Taskmaster in Black Widow, and then going into the details of how she factors into the show. Allegedly, she is being tasked or given the job of going after Hawkeye and taking him down. So, in true Hawkeye fashion, I don't know what it is. He just has a way of kind of getting through to different people, different initial villains, and having them turn another leaf. I mean, that's what the basis of his relationship with Black Widow, and how that relationship developed. You have a similar situation happen, and I know people don't really think of it that way, but if you think about it, it really is in Age of Ultron with Wanda. They were villains. Let's be honest. For a good portion of the film, and after working with them, or having that alliance in what's Sokovia, and having that moment where he kind of like gives her a pep talk about don't care about what you did, and mind you, I'm paraphrasing, but we don't care about what you did. We Once you step foot out this door, you're an Avenger. So like being able to kind of get through to people who otherwise start off on the wrong side, and kind of providing the inspiration to make them heroic. It seems to be a quality that he has. And another caveat that I didn't add to that is the person who actually allegedly sends her to go after Hawkeye, and the rumor is that it may very well be Kingpin. So what Kingpin? The Kingpin from Daredevil. I know we were talking about Netflix Daredevil show.
That means Daredevil. I'm sure he's
coming. It's not going to be a recast of that character. It's going to be Vincent D'Onofrio, who played an awesome Kingpin in Daredevil. So I'll try to pull up that information of that news, because I did remember that alleged rumor. But as I'm pulling that up, Jerome, what are your thoughts of this character appearing, not just in Hawkeye, but from what we understand, she's getting, as you see in the title, she's getting her own series. So.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, that she's deaf and Native American. I mean, that's cool. I mean, you already have a deaf superhero in the Eternals, and that was cool. I mean, it's good that they're like I said, they're bringing in diverse types of heroes with, like, I mean, you had like the first openly gay character, superhero in Eternals.
Right.
You have like ones with disabilities, and then now you're having like the first Muslim American, Pakistani Muslim character in Miss Marvel. So that's cool. I mean, like I said, it's great that they're doing this. I mean, the more we can be inclusive. I mean, you can really give credit to like Black Panther for really, shining the way. And then you have Shang-Chi, and it's just amazing. This is why Marvel is great, and there's so many characters they can bring to the screen and do that. My only issue is, I mean, I don't really know that much about Echo, but that'd be interesting if they tie it to Kingpin. But my thing is, it's like the only. I mean, like, I'll watch it, of course. I'll watch all these shows, regardless. That's how much of a diehard fan I am. But my only issue is the whole Taskmaster similarity. It's like, I'm not saying I completely hate what they did in Black Widow, even though, unless it's like a copycat Taskmaster, a copycat. Pun intended. What's it called? I want to see the real Taskmaster actually end up in this MCU. Hopefully they do that. I don't know if they're going to do that, but that's what I would want to see, because he trains and fights a whole bunch of people in the comics and the cartoon, and he fights Deadpool once, and that would be hilarious, like, because Deadpool is able to like dance and be so unpredictable. Taskmaster can't copy what he's doing. So, I mean, I think you have an issue I think there's an issue when you have too many people with similar powers. Okay, this is just another person, but I'm like, I don't know if we really need that, but if there's more to the character, maybe. I mean, maybe they might add something. I mean, I guess because she's an archer, archer or whatever. She has bow and arrow skills too. I mean, it's like enhanced Hawkeye or whatever you want to call it. I just do feel like that can definitely be, that's the one issue. That's one thing that I think Marvel can have a problem with, is if they start introducing other characters who have similar abilities, or a lesser known character that is basically ripping off what another main character is supposed to have. Like, I'll give an example. I don't care. You might have to put spoilers again, but like in like Eternals, like the Celestials. Celestials are badass, but I mean, I'm not really giving away anything, but there's a part in that movie. Well, yeah, you can put spoilers. There's a part in that movie where I swear to God, I mean, I know Celestials are cool and they're these giant omnipotent beings, but the scene where he's like, "I'm imbuing you power," that's just like Galactus doing that with the Silver Surfer, and it's like, so what happens when they bring Galactus into the fold? It's not gonna have. I feel like it's not gonna have the same weight, the same impact, because you're like, hey, he's doing the same thing one of those Celestials did. Yeah, but like that connection between Galactus and Silver
But they
Surfer,
could do something. I do have a theory on that.
that kind of pissed me off. That
no,
pissed
I
me off
get your
because I was
point. I have a
like,
theory on that if you want to hear it. So, like, if we're picturing, I'm saying for Galactus, what they could do is that they could, and I know it's been explained out there as a possibility too, is that by having the Eternals in essence be a place, or I should say be creatures that reside on different planets, and that's where they gestate, so to speak. That's where they grow, and they siphon energy from different creatures of that planet until they're ready to be birthed, so to speak. Is that instead of having Galactus be focused on gaining the energy from like the core of the planet, they could say that he feeds on Celestials. So like they could say that he feeds on like celestial eggs, and have that be something that they go with. Because I mean, what they've done in Marvel a lot is, and I mean it happens in the comics as well, but they've explained it a lot in the TV shows, and even with like the philosophy, a lot of the characters is just that idea of balance. So you have one character or one force, or we'll just say force. We have one force or one power, going after doing one thing, and then you have something else to cancel it out. So in the same way that Galactus is a force of nature, the Celestials are a force of nature. And while to kind of ensure that the population of the Celestials doesn't get out of hand, and they don't cause massive destruction of various planets, because it's kind of a catch-22. Like, they bring life, but at the same time they cause a lot of destruction too. To kind of balance that out is that you have Galactus there who feeds on celestial eggs. So sometimes there may be times where a Celestial isn't able to be birthed because Galactus feeds on the Celestial that's still trying to be born.
Yeah, but the thing is, regardless, though, even with that, is that we might be okay with it, sort of, but you're not differentiating those characters that much, because that was like I said, that's the only problem I have with Eternals. Like, I mean, I still enjoyed it, and like, I like how they explored the origins and like the past, and this whole idea with the Celestials, and like that stuff is all cool. I feel like they could have gone deeper with it and connected it more to like Thanos, and maybe had like, I don't know, just gotten more into that mythology too. But regardless, Galactus would still be feeding off of a planet or feeding off of something, and like they already showed that in the movie. It's like they need the planet to grow, and then it gets destroyed. That's not that much different between I'm feeding off of either a world, and then your world is destroyed, or I'm feeding off a Celestial that's coming out. Like, that's the thing. And then how else is Silver Surfer getting his power? He's giving them cosmic energy. They said the same thing. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, now that Eternals is in people's minds, now they're going to be thinking, oh, this is like the Eternals thing. So this is what I'm saying. Like, regardless of how different some of these characters might be, somewhat.
You're saying with casual.
When you put him in the movie like this, it's the same with like the Icarus. I mean, yeah, okay, he looked like Superman, but I'm like, what happened when they bring Cyclops in? They're like, oh yeah, it's just like that Icarus dude, but he's not flying. Like, I feel like that's gonna be that might be a fatigue problem that's gonna happen when you start bringing in too many characters that are similar. And I think X-Men even kind of did that was trying to stay away from that with some of its characters. I mean, you know, there's similar characters in X-Men that have similar powers too, regardless. And I mean, that could happen regardless, but I kind of rather that Galactus was that first force that they gave those elements to and that story time to for that. So it's like, it's going to be tough. I mean, you know, I just feel like that threat isn't a big deal anymore now because we just talked and the Eternals. So they could just be like, yo, get the Eternals on the phone. Yo, I need you to stop like that was the whole point of of Silver Surfer being that one being who's imbued. They use the same freaking terminology. And they said cosmic power. I'm like, now I feel like Eternals need to be like Silver Surfers. And I'm like, I guess they could go hand in hand. But I'm like, yo, Silver Surfer is badass. I mean, he's got that. Silver Surfer ain't going to be as unique anymore now because it's like, oh, we got Eternals. So that's just the problem. I mean, they can still do it.
I don't know. Like I said, I think
it loses its impact. It loses its impact. I
think that there's still not, from what I was saying, I think that there's still an opportunity there to show how, you know, in terms of the pecking order or the hierarchy, if you will, that, you know, while you have the apex, you know, species that you think are the Celestials, that there's someone who's above them, and it's going to end up being Galactus that we find out is even above the Celestials. So like even to your point of what you were saying with Silver Surfer, they could still show, maybe, you know, they can still show the power of they can still show the power of the Silver Surfer by having him take on a Celestial, because you're trying to show, like the Silver Surfer can take on a Celestial. I'm not saying in the comics, guys. So for all of you, those that are going to go crazy about a Celestial is far more powerful than Silver Surfer, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying in the context of the MCU and the rules that they set, if they decide to show, I
don't think they'll do that though, because the Celestials are really freaking powerful. I mean,
I know. But follow me here. So you place Galactus at a pedestal above the Celestials, and then you have to show how powerful he is, and you say that obviously Silver Surfer has a fraction of what that power is. Then you have him take on like multiple Eternals at once, just to demonstrate just how much more powerful Galactus is than like the Eternals, or where his pecking order is among the Eternals and Celestials. So like there's a way that you could do that, where you could just have him fight multiple Celestials and just like crush him. Or like he, even if he loses to a Celestial, he for a little while is able to hold his own just for a little bit, even though we know that
you still have the Watchers in Eternity and they didn't bring those like Eternity and Living Tribunal. They didn't even bring. They were supposed to bring it in Endgame.
Let me take down the spoiler, because since we now know.
But anyway, all I'm saying, but even with but I feel like once again, you and me, we get it, we like it, but you got to remember. The reason why these movies do well, it's not just
those casual fans.
The people who don't understand, they're going to be like, another giant dude. What? It's the same shit, man. Same thing. Oh, sorry. I'm just saying it loses its impact when you're doing something very similar. So, I mean, of course, Ultron, Ant-Man created it. Tony Stark was behind it. That's fine. Like, I don't have an issue. And then they showed, and they still had Ant-Man was back in the day. He's been there. So that's like, it's fine. But like I said, we're not seeing another Ultron. Like I'm just saying, like, it really, I'm curious to see how they could do it, but I'd rather see more Galactus and Fantastic Four and Silver Surfer than I want to see Celestials. I feel like they should be in the background, but it's just. Yeah, and it was interesting seeing that too, because remember in Guardians of the Galaxy, that nowhere that was a celestial head. I mean, so it's just, they're pretty big to have a planet and have all those resources just from their head, but also their technology. I mean, too, like Apocalypse's technology is celestial. He gets that, so all of that is great and that's cool. But I just feel like you just have to remember, story wise, from a movie standpoint, from a cinematic standpoint. There are also decisions that have to be made that are going to differentiate some of these characters, because regardless, even people who like it, like some people can have fatigue already with some of these superhero movies, but those I think were just people who have they're just not in the loop or understand the subgenres, and that's fine. But the people who are enjoying these subgenres, and that's the only reason why the MCU is successful still, because the subgenres are different enough to keep you interested and keep it fresh, keep it new. Once those subgenres get too repetitive, or you can't have another subgenre, or you can't really delineate from these subgenres, and it gets back to just sounds like you're recycling another story, I think you're going to start getting people to think like, okay, man, they're out of ideas now. But that's not the case. But that's also why some of these characters I feel like aren't showing up yet, because some are probably too similar. And, you know, that's why it's great to have like a Galactus, or I mean the Celestial, or the Kang as a villain now, as opposed to we're all played out with Infinity Stones. Like like that's been played out. We got done well. We love Thanos and all that, but you're not gonna have another villain with like a whole bunch of stones. It's gonna have to be like I said. Now we're messing with time. Now we're gonna mess with outer.
That's why I changed up the rings to being bracelets. So
exactly. So that's that's my only issue. But I know we kind of strayed away from this Echo character. That's the thing with Task. Whatever. I'll go watch it. It's all good. But I just, like I said, that's just the issue I have when you're bringing in these characters. It just makes you wonder. Sometimes you're like, man, did they just not believe in Taskmaster or something, or they didn't like the reception? And it's like, they put the fake me out Mandarin in Shang-Chi. So that was good. That came full circle. You had the fake Mandarin, and then you have the real Mandarin. I mean, well, even though you made a joke about it, but I don't know. I wonder if they're going to do that with Taskmaster at all. But I will say the Echo part, if she's hired by Kingpin, and you bring that in, I think that could be interesting. Yes, I'm all for that. So we'll see what happens, but it's just kind of sad that they're not, unless it's just sad if they're not gonna bring Taskmaster back in a way, or the original Taskmaster, because I don't have an issue if Taskmaster, like the one in that movie, was just like based off of his powers. They could say that, because it's more of like a machine in a suit as opposed to like the guy's natural abilities. I guess you could say right now with Echo, then if it's like her natural abilities and they're showing that, then okay, that's the difference. But come on, like the real Taskmaster.
And just to go back, talk more about the character. I know I was bringing up Kingpin and how it could factor into the series. So just to give you a little information about Echo, she was first introduced apparently in Daredevil number 9 in 1999, created by David Mack and Joe Quesada. She is the adoptive daughter of Kingpin. So, according to the, according to the comics, she is the adoptive daughter. As I said, not really privy to her character, but in looking up, research about her, she's the adoptive daughter of Kingpin. So by
let's get Daredevil
having him appear in here wouldn't be too off base. As I said, it's rumored.
That would be dope. But
it wouldn't be too off base, because it would be related to how it functions in the comics as well. So there you go. But
maybe
yes,
they'll have both. Maybe Bullseye will show up too, because
that's a character they need to keep.
Interesting, yeah. Like someone who can copy anyone's character. Someone
that guy, like the guy who played Bullseye and what they did with that character, that was cool. Like I hope they keep that actor as Bullseye.
Maybe Punisher might show up in this too. But
I hope they keep him as Bullseye for the MCU and bring him along with Charlie Cox, because like he has impact in terms of events that happen, in the comics. Like for those of you that know like the whole story of Dark Reign, I mean, we're about to get Dark Avengers, and he actually takes on, if I recall, that moniker, that Hawkeye moniker, of the Dark Avengers team, because like every member of that team like mirrors one of the main founding members, and so like for Hawkeye, that character is Bullseye. So yeah, like it.
But then the question would be also like I said, this is also Disney Plus. I mean, come on. Those Netflix shows are like R-rated.
Look, you said it yourself. Put it on Hulu.
Yeah, like, but this is I don't think this is gonna be on Hulu. This is, you could see like it says Marvel. I'm just saying maybe, but it sounded like this is Disney Plus. Like they're gonna put on that. But
hey, listen, man. Like we're also getting But here's the thing. Hold on.
they
Like
could do
we're
that.
also getting what is it? And when you just talked about it, it's a
Prey.
part of this lineup.
You talking about Prey?
No, I'm talking about Moon Knight. Like Moon Knight is not a very.
But I don't think
like,
they're gonna make it R-rated though. I don't think. But I mean,
but I'm just saying, like,
it could be.
He's not a super cuddly character. He's a pretty vicious, violent character. So, if they're able to pull that off on Disney Plus, then I don't see why they couldn't pull off.
No, I mean they could do it. It's just obviously it'll be a little different. I mean, when they bring the Punisher back,
obviously they can't have like a lot of
they
can't have a lot of like blood and gore, obviously. But I mean, like if I'm picturing the way that they did Bullseye, and I know a lot of people don't want to like remember it, but Colin Farrell's Bullseye.
I like Colin Farrell's Bullseye.
I thought he was fine too. But I'm just saying in terms of how they executed it, where they didn't have a lot of blood and gore, but they still showed what his ability was. So like, I mean, you could still demonstrate that. I mean, people get stabbed all the time and shot at in The Mandalorian. I mean, violent stuff happens in that show, but it's just not a lot of blood and gore. So, I mean, you can still do it. I mean, it's still a way around it. It's just be PG-13-esque instead of rated R. So,
but when you have aliens or anything, creatures getting stabbed or whatever, it's not the same as humans. Remember,
which is why they got away with it. That's what I was explaining to you.
You could put a gremlin in the microwave and it's still PG.
And you can have predators fight aliens. That's why they were able to get away with
exactly. Yeah, I mean that's how you get around it. But I'm saying in this realm, they're going to be humans. I'm sure fighting and getting hurt. So yeah, I don't know how that'll work, but. And also going back to the cartoons, you know how they got around the whole blood thing? They would say plasma. They're like, we need some plasma. And I was just like, why do they say plasma? And I remember talking to one of my friends. He was like, yeah, that's their way of, instead of saying blood, they say plasma.
Hey, they did the same thing. Speaking of that, I know we were talking about a lot of these cartoons, and then I'll wrap it up, is that in Spider-Man, the animated series, I know we have the live action version coming out now, Morbius. When they had Morbius appear, not even that. When they had Morbius appear in Spider-Man, instead of him having him bite people, if you remember, he had like the suckles on his hands or something. So,
but I think he also had. I thought he also had that in the. I mean, yeah, it makes sense he would bite people, but I thought he did. I thought he was able to do that too. But whatever.
I'll look it up. I'm pretty. I want to say they did
regardless, he's a vampire. He should be biting you. I mean, you would think.
Yeah, but because it's a kids' cartoon, they had to make it like less threatening by putting it on his hand.
But remember what he kept saying. I need to feed off of plasma. He never said blood. I need plasma.
Yeah,
it's a cartoon. That's
yeah. So, but anyway, digress. That's gonna do our show today, guys. Thanks for bearing with us. Like I said, so much to talk about. And we got really passionate about like a lot of those topics there. But why else would you come here and listen to us to talk about it otherwise? But with that being said, I'm your host, Brandon Troy. Before I get into the nitty gritty to send us off, Jerome, go for it.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for watching us. And, you can find me. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at JWBourgeois21. If you want to support us, definitely you can go to youtube.com, Movers Shakers Unlimited. Definitely like, subscribe, share, click on the little bell, and you'll get the feeds. Also, if you want to be a Patreon supporter, you can go to patreon.com/Movers Shakers Unlimited, like Brandon said earlier. And also, like I said, we're also on Instagram at Movers Shakers Unlimited. And we're on Twitter and Facebook at Move and Shake UNLTD. There's Instagram, and then Move and Shake UNLTD on Twitter and Facebook. And thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, let your friends, family know. And we always try to bring you some exciting conversations and content. And we also try to go to some different locations and cover some different conventions and events that you guys might be interested in. But also let us know, like, if you guys want us to cover something or talk about a topic that might interest you. Just let us know, put it in the comments, or shoot us a message. But I'll send it back to you, Brandon.
Cool beans. So yes, as I mentioned before, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me on Twitter at Brandon Troy ENT, which you see down below. Also on Instagram at Brandon Troy _ENT. And then I'll second, what my fellow co-creator share with you guys. You can also find us on Instagram at Movers Shakers Unlimited and on Twitter at Move and Shake UNLTD. So both of these here. And then last but not least, I just want to sing you. I know we always say make sure you like and subscribe, but for those of you that have thus far, thanks so much. Thanks so much for checking out a lot of the content that we do here. Do our best to continue to provide that for you all, and keep it. Let's, again, as I mentioned before, let's keep that momentum going of what's been able to get accomplished so far with the videos that you guys have shown that you enjoy a lot. If there's certain ones that or certain types of content that you guys are curious about, just as Jerome said, be sure to let us know in the comments. And, that if there's certain, because we have certain playlists and certain shows going, if you really enjoy them, just let us know outside of obviously what you demonstrate with watching it. And hit that like and subscribe button. We're on pace with a couple of milestones, and thanks to you guys, we're on pace to hitting those. So thank you guys so much. Be safe out there, and other than that, till next time, see you soon. Bye.
Peace. See you guys later.